Broadcasting to you live from the Orion spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, no longer in Los Angeles, California. To be pseudo-specific, my name is BrianEngelman. Today is Thursday, August the 7th, 2025, and this right here is a special episode of the Agree to Disagree show here on the new American media, because the old American media has failed you. Tonight, we're going to discuss UFOs. Oh, Tulsi Gabbard gave us a little wink. We're going to look back on Hiroshima, or is it Hiroshima? We're also going to talk about Ghislaine, however you want to pronounce her name, Maxwell, and her father, and the foundation, the funding, the creation of Israel, Zionism, Epstein, blackmail, and all of that jazz. Also going to talk about the Federal Reserve private banking cartel. Oh, it's not a federal agency. It's just a bunch of private banksters who steal your money. They loan you your own money at interest. Oh, how benevolent of you to make me your slave. What type of ties might they have to communist China? Well, we're going to unpack that story. And we're also going to, of course, talk about, I think I said gerrymandering. If I didn't, let me say gerrymandering. And a lot of stuff happening in Texas, because Texas is really paving the way for America, if you want to think about it that way. Between Alligator Alcatraz in Florida and the gerrymandering, and, well, there's a whole bunch of reasons why Texas and Florida are leading the way for America. And our guest today is living down in Texas. Pastor, historian. What else is it? Pastor, historian. There was another researcher, author, Bruce Engelman. Yes, that's my uncle. He's making his, oh my gosh, I don't know how many times he's been on the program. That's our question of the day for Bruce over there. Bruce, hold up your hand. Tell us, how many times do you think you've been on the New American Media? 3, 4, 7. I think I see 7, maybe 8. That feels about right. Over the past 14 years, we had Bruce on just about a year ago in the immediate aftermath of, the grand conspiracy. You can't spy on Trump enough to keep him out. You can't frame Trump to make him ineligible. You can't set him up with 97 bogus charges to make sure people don't vote for him. You can't throw him in jail where you can Epstein him. You can't Butler, Pennsylvania him. You can't Florida golf course him. He survived. He wasn't supposed to. His head went just that much away from a civil war. We were that close. That close. What a strange journey it's been. So we're going to unpack all these stories and more on today's special episode of the Agree to Disagree show with pastor, author, researcher, Bruce Engelman. Fire it up, grab your beverage, jump into the comments section, hit like, subscribe, and we will begin today's program right now.
Your guide to the truth, the new AmericanMedia.com.
We play that specific intro for the TNAM Daily Show that we do every day at noon. See how that swapped out to the TNAM Daily Show? And why am I so fuzzy around the edges? Just one hand. Which hand is it? It's this hand? Interesting, but not this hand so much. I don't know. Maybe I need to upgrade my lighting. I got all these lights here. Thank you so much for being here on this special episode. But yeah, we're around every day at noon, Monday through Saturday. The day of the week that reeks of rest, and all we do is catch our breath so we can wade naked through the bloody pool to place our hand upon the big black book, says Corey Taylor from Stone Sour. But yes, we do take Sunday, the day of the week that reeks of rest. We do take that one day off, but we are 6 days a week on the TNAM Daily Show. So please join us, hit like, hit subscribe, share with your friends, and jump into the comments section. Once the comments start populating, we are going to bring the comments onto the screen so that we can incorporate your thoughts, your jokes, your questions, your ideas, your counterclaims, your rebuttals, anything you have to say. Turn it upside down like a waste paper basket and dump it on the table for us to consider. Hello, Mr. Engelman. Hello, Bruce. Hello, Uncle Bruce. However we want to say that, howdy and welcome.
Hello, Mr. Engelman. How are you, sir?
That's weird. I've never called you Mr. Engelman. I don't think you've ever called me Mr. Engelman.
You never have. And as a proper disclaimer, you're not just my favorite nephew now, but, well, Tide, but you
are. No, wait, what? Tide?
Well, Chris is still alive.
Well, I mean, well, okay. Well,
he's in heaven, you know.
Yeah, I mean, so, you know.
Yeah. But on Earth...
He doesn't need your vote now. I'll take your vote now.
But anyway, you're also my godson. I mean, that's like 2 notches above. That's like 2 notches above just...
So what does that mean, being the godson? So...
It means if you and I go into Mickey D's, we get a 59-cent cup of senior citizen coffee.
All right.
That's what it's worth. But no, seriously, all kidding aside, when you were growing up, godfathers and godsons had a huge connection, and godparents had a huge responsibility. Heaven forbid if something had happened to your father, Robert, or your mother, Kathy, you would have been growing up in my household. And you'd probably be a Baptist minister now, like my other 2 boys.
All right. I don't know. I couldn't quite. All right. No, I'm absorbing that. I'm trying to imagine would I've gone that route. Because you know me. I'm just I don't even know where I get me from. I just wind myself up. I don't even wind myself up. I just start doing the walk. I feel like I'm a vessel through which. All right. Here's a question.
Yes, sir.
Not to dump on the table here. What about the theory that this is like a training ground? This is a simulation. I don't think that takes away from a biblical perspective, a creationist theory. Well, maybe we created something where we're sitting in a reclining chair with our virtual reality goggles on, and this is just our body, and we're walking through it, and we're either trying to live within certain parameters, or it's one of those video games where you can pull people out of the car and do all sorts of terrible stuff. What say you on that?
That's a great question. Never been asked that question. The difference between Buddhism and Hinduism and some of the other religions of the Far East and Near East is they believe in reincarnation. And they are going through a test pattern to see if they can, as Emeril Lagasse say, get knocked up a couple notches. Whereas in Christianity and Judaism and Catholicism, there is only one incarnation. And the Bible says it is appointed unto man once to die, and after this, the judgment. But you are correct in the sense, Brian, that this is kind of a testing ground for us. And the Lord says through his word that we can build up treasures in heaven. He said, don't build treasures up here on earth where moth and rust doth corrupt, but lay your treasures up in heaven where they cannot be stolen. And we're only here for a short time. You know, the Bible says that our lives are like a vapor. And it was so great to hear that the 3 who died in 1 week, 3 of my favorites, Ozzy Osbourne, Jamal Warner, and Hulk Hogan, had all made decisions to follow Christ or receive Christ. And I don't know if you caught the AI where they're walking through the pearly gates and one goes the other. It looks so real. He goes, we made it. And the other guy goes, yeah, can't believe we made it. So this is kind of a testing ground. And we all hope and pray. Those of us who are believers in the Lord Jesus Christ, whether we're Protestant, Catholic, Baptist, Pentecostal, whatever, that when we meet the Lord, he will say, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant." And by the way, you do more for the cause of Christianity than a lot of ministers and priests and preachers do. You open a lot of people's eyes. You stand for truth. Yes, you do. You may not be overtly pious or traditionally overtly religious, but because you are preaching, there's different types of truth. There's spiritual truth, there's biblical truth, there's religious truth, but there's also historic and governmental truth, and they're all connected. And your audience loves you because you are different, and you tell it like it is, and you have no agenda, and nobody's pulling your puppet string. So, yeah, I hate to say it, I am biased. I am your uncle and godfather, but I'm very impressed and proud of you because you are a true journalist, which doesn't exist anymore in the mainstream, or as you say, the legacy media, or as Rush used to say,
lying legacy media.
Right, lying legacy, or as Rush used to say, the drive-bys. Oh, I miss Rush Limbaugh.
Or for those of you in Rio Linda, California, we call them drive-bys.
I miss Rush.
El Rush, bro, baby. Yeah, I brought him up the other day. Thank you for the kind words. I don't know if I quite, sir, Mr. Engelman, I know journalists, and I, sir, am no journalist. No, I have journalistic bearing,
proclivities,
of course, but I think as a pundit, as a commentator, as a talk show host, like I'm a lot of things, but I like to go source people like Laura Logan and Glenn Greenwald and Matthew Schellenberger and like find the best of the best. And I want them to mainly do the journalisming. I want to distill it down and try to connect it to the other stories and try to parse apart whether it's, how it fits in. But yeah, I've heard Glenn Beck say, "Don't call me a journalist." He's like, "I'm a pundit, or I'm an opinion guy." And I worked at the opinion page in my college, and I think I have too many opinions. That's why I got my psychology degree. But they're like, "Well, you're not really supposed to offer your opinions all that much. You really want them to, you want to ask leading questions and let them discover the truth on their own." I'm like, man, I'm too opinionated for that. I think I'm too opinionated. But
what was great about you is that you are all the above. You are a journalist, a true journalist in the old school format, but you're also a talk show host. You're a stand-up comic. You're a game show contestant. You are a jack of all trades, master of them all. And in a sense, you're a preacher. I mean, political preacher nonetheless, but you are a preacher. So you are extremely versatile and balanced, very well balanced. Some of these guys are starting to worry me. I love Glenn Beck, not Glenn Beck, Tucker Carlson. He's starting to worry me, I didn't know he was an alcoholic and a drug addict. I just saw that today. Former. But no, you are all the above. Does your audience know you do stand-up comedy now?
All right. Enough about me. Enough about me.
Okay, a little bit more.
Enough about me.
Enough about you. Yes.
I briefly mentioned to people that I do stand up. The past month I've been recalibrating. It's like there's only so many productive hours in the day, and it's broken up between like pre-9 for me. There's like pre-9 a.m. hours. Those are bonus hours. You need at least an hour to feed the cats and wipe your eyes open, brush your teeth, and get the coffee going, and just whatever. But then there's like that bonus time before 9 a.m.
Right.
And of course, there's 9 to 5. There's all the things that encapsulates. And then there's the productive hours of 5:01 p.m. to doing comedy. Sometimes I would be out till 3 or 4, and I would close some of these places down. Often doing multiple sets in the same night. It's an endeavor that I've always wanted to do. I've received a few laughs. I've bombed. I've done everything in between. But it's glorious because I've always wanted to do it. Now I am finally doing it. This video game, this simulation, this godly experience walking around on Earth, it only lasts so long. We only get 80 summers if we're lucky. I mean, if we're lucky, Chris got half of that,
Yeah.
So it's like, what do you want to do? It's like, I try to be funny in the moment, and I'm naturally funny in the moment also. Sometimes I try all the time. I intentionally throw darts. Other times I just say things and I'll get spit takes out of people. And I'm like, yes, that was the coolest thing. They actually took a sip of water and I cracked them up and the water went out. And it's like, you really got me on a spit take. I said, you really made the highlight reel of my life. Thank you.
That's great.
I remember where we were sitting when the it's happened more than once, but I love comedy and I've got a long way to go to like refine the craft. It's
you remind me of the great late Norm Macdonald from Canada. And your dad could have been a stand-up comic. Sometimes I think your father missed his calling. He could have been a stand-up comedian and hilarious. That natural wit in comedy. And he had a little Don Rickles in him too, that little snarky edge, which made your dad funny. And your dad has done a lot of public speaking here lately and columnist for Guitar Magazine, retired. But you have a great intellect as well as a great sense of humor. And that's unusual. Most intellectuals are boring and dull and no sense of humor. Speaking of which, do you want more accolades from your uncle?
And I'm just here. I have nothing scripted. I'm just letting you talk for the most part. So
in 1976, I was asked to represent the Marion Center School District for the bicentennial in Philadelphia as the best male student, which I was not. And we went with Mr. Omiatek, our guidance counselor, who was a former Green Beret. He was really cool. And I spoke before a big convention in Philly of little people. You're not allowed to use the M word anymore, right?
I don't know who decided that. That doesn't make any sense.
I'm going to use it later on because when we talk about Mr. Epstein, but I spoke before a convention of midgets. And when I walked out, they gave me a standing ovation. I never knew it.
Hey, try the steak. Your waitress, hey.
You could use that, and you can tell I'm not politically correct at all. This is the 1948 vintage that my boys bought me for my birthday of the last time the Cleveland Indians won the World Series. By the way, there's a great movement on, and we got President Trump putting wind to our sails. We are going to rename the team the Cleveland Indians again. We may not get Chief Wahoo back, but we're going to get the Indians name, and we're not quitting.
I feel like what we should do is go back to the Indians until we win a championship. Change it. No, Chief Wahoo.
I like that. Yeah.
Maybe not the version on your hat, but maybe like the current one that's like the cartoony, awesome Chief Wahoo that we know from Major League. So Chief Wahoo stays. That's non-negotiable. He's a damned cartoon. I'm trying to hold my language. I occasionally reach in the back of the Crayola box and I drop some colorful language on my shows, but I'll try to self-censor. How about this? We get all the local Cleveland, all the Ohio tribes, the Tuscaroras and the Punxsutawney, I don't know, whatever they're called. Get them. Look, bring the Indians back. Chief Wahoo back. Until we win our World Series, then we can change our name to the Tribe. Whether or not we were called the Indians really to honor Louis Sockalexis, who broke the Indian barrier in Major League Baseball, just like Larry Doby broke the American League black barrier for players on the Cleveland Indians, just like Frank Robinson broke the black manager barrier in the American League for the Cleveland Indians. Cleveland Indians have been a trailblazing progressive franchise forever. Give us our team name back. We want our one championship. You haven't seen one in your entire life. I haven't seen one my entire life. That is not acceptable, non-negotiable. Bring our team name back. Number one, because we can't negotiate with the terrorists who burned America down in 2020 under the direction of Tim Walz, Kamala Harris, the Minnesota Freedom Fund, and all of those dirty, deep state, divisive, demonic Democrats that were hell-bent on destroying America to prove Orange Man bad or something. You can't reward them. You can't reward them. It's the same story they're saying over, and we'll get to Palestine, Israel. It's a topic I almost try to never even get into. Anyway, but it's like you can't reward statehood to Palestine because they attacked their neighbor and started a war by butchering 1,200. You can't reward that with something that they've wanted. So you can't reward the mob of woke by erasing the Cleveland Indians. Cleveland Guardians, whatever. I'm starting to like sort of get used to hearing it. I hate it, but it feels like like a concession every time. I don't call them the Indians every time. I don't want to negotiate like that. So I want to get your thoughts on what I just said there, but I say go back to the Indians until we win a World Series. Keep Chief Wahoo. Turn to the Tribe. Maybe the Tribe, we can come up with a new mascot. You know, keep the Chief for roll back the whatever day. Roll back the Guardians for it's fine to be Guardians for a couple seasons. Maybe we use it for the retro jerseys. But I say we stick with the Tribe to honor the fact that our franchise has brought in all of those players, Larry Doby, Frank Robinson, Louis Sockalexis, breaking barriers. The Tribe is just a community. So that's my hope. What say you?
I think that is a fascinating perspective. I think that's a wonderful solution because
it's a little of everything. Everybody gets a little bit to bitch about, but like we all find a way to shake hands again. We all find a way to come back together.
Yeah. Let me just say something about the Tribe, and then I want to comment on your Native American illusion.
Oh, by the way.
Yeah. Loving it. Wild thing. The collective noun is more and more popular in sports now. You know, you have the Thunder, you have the Lightning. I think the Tribe would be perfect because instead of the Cardinals or the Orioles, the Tribe. That's new century. That's progressive thinking. So I like that. I recently attended 2 lectures by 2. You're going to find this interesting, as you have a lot of Indian fans. Notice I said Indians. I attended 2 lectures by 2 radical Indian rights fellas. These are American natives. They weren't 0.0002% like Pocahontas. They were 100. They were 100% red-blooded American native Indians. Okay. I waited. One was a liberal, one was a conservative, one was a Democrat, one was a Republican. I waited until after the issue of nicknames for sports clubs and franchises never came up. So I waited until after their lectures, and I went up to them. These were 2 different venues, but a couple months in between. And I said, "May I ask you a personal?" I introduced myself. I said, "May I ask you a personal question?" Yes, they both said yes, sir. I said, "Were you offended, sir?" And I said to the next guy the same thing. "Were you offended that the Indians were given that name, or the ball club in Cleveland was named the Indians, or the Atlanta club, the Braves, or the Washington?" And both of them, Brian, got irate. I thought they were getting mad at me for even bringing the issue up. Oh no. The one guy's jugular vein was sticking out, and they really did get red, pun intended. And both of them, a liberal and a conservative, radical Indian rights, civil rights activists, said, we were highly offended and angered that they took the Indians off the name. It's a bunch of white liberal sports writers, a bunch of bleeding hearts who have white guilt and now red guilt. Like your dad said, there's not a tribe within 180 miles of Cleveland. I mean, come on. But of course, the critics are going to go anecdotal. There was a big, I urge your readers to read it in Epic Times, a big editorial. Some guy named Anderson from Ohio wrote, "Oh, he loves it, and Trump needs to keep his nose out of it." And as the great Rush Limbaugh said, nobody ever died or gave their life because the Cleveland team was named the Indians and the Atlanta team was named the Braves. And I'll go a step further. Not one American Native Indian on any res has ever been helped because they changed the name to the Guardians. And I'll go a step further. You know, I am a pastor. Here's my Bible. I believe God blessed the Braves with a World Series and a world title the next year when they didn't bend and bow to the white liberal woke people, and he gave them a World Series championship.
That was a couple years ago, right?
A couple years ago, yeah.
Ronald Acuna.
What do you think about that? A conservative and a liberal Indian right activist, guys, they were angered that the Indians' name was taken off. They said it was an honor to their peoples.
Why would you want your culture to be whitewashed away?
Thank you.
That's not our culture. That's a damned character. Look at his big teeth on that Chief Wahoo. You're marginalizing us. You're distilling us down. All right, tell me about the Notre Dame Fighting Irish that we watch every Saturday. Tell me about the Notre Dame. I'm a drunken Irish.
Yeah.
It's a goofy sports logo. Yeah, well, how would you like to be the Cleveland Caucasians? Sign me up. I'll wear the hat.
Sign me up.
What do you want? What do you want from me? It's a historical thing that we had for 100 years, and it just got poofed away for racial, for equity, or for justice, or the DE. You know what it is? It really is like making the woke sacrifice at the top of the Temple Mount, or in the Bible, you have to offer your firstborn son to prove your allegiance. And I'm very curious to get your take. Was it the same God? I'm doing air quotes if you're just listening on our podcast. Was it the same God from the Old Testament to the New Testament? Because a lot of people say those are two very different people. And if God is actually gods descending from the heavens, beings coming from the sky, maybe that is a little different, but it's a sacrifice. It's a blood sacrifice. You smear this over your door for Passover, go off your firstborn son, and what have you. Am I making that connection a little strangely, or does it?
No, that
it's a sacrifice to the woke gods.
Yes.
You must do something to virtue signal to make yourself pious enough to earn enough brownie points in the community. And it's like you said, it's a bunch of backward white liberals that want to take offense for, I will take offense on behalf. I will be your ally. Excuse me, lady. I didn't ask you to speak on my behalf a single time. You can sit your ass back down, please.
Thank you.
But they've been taught through the radical education system, the indoctrination system. You have to do that. You have to hate yourself. You have to hate whiteness. You have to hate being a man. You have to hate Christianity. You have to hate being straight. You have to hate all of the things that I'm like, well, shit, who decided to take my demographic checkbox and make all of me evil? I don't remember being evil. I foster cats. I help kids. I try to be productive in my community. I try to push accuracy through the news and reporting. When did I become the bad guy? I know it was going on before Obama, but the Obama doctrine of the past 20 years took it to whole other levels.
When he campaigned, he was going to bring the red and blue together. You know, he did just the opposite. He separated this nation. He divided it racially. We were being racially healed. We really were. We had black, coaches of major league teams and professionals. I want to say one thing before I jump to your question about the Bible and human sacrifice.
Because that's a deep one. We might have touched on it in the past. It just reminded me.
That's really deep. But I just wanted to say one thing. It's money. Everything can be traced back to either money. The love of money is the root of all evil, not the acquisition or possession. The Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil, or power. And the two sometimes are joined together. For instance, why were the Seminoles not forced to change their name at Florida State, but the largest state university in Pennsylvania had to change their name from the Indians to the Crimson Hawks? Hello, it's money. It's money. Plus, the Seminole tribe says, no. Just like my two friends, one radical, one liberal, one conservative, were offended that they took the Indians' names off. The Seminole people and the tribes on the reses in Florida said, I used to work on a reservation in Southwest Florida with poor kids, and they said, no, it's an honor to us. So white liberals need to keep their stinking noses out of everything. I'm working with the Sons of Confederate Veterans now to put back the Confederate statues, and just today, Pete Hegseth, our Secretary of Defense, says we're putting back the Confederate statue in Arlington. Way to go, Pete. Way to go, Pete. Now, do you want me to address the question about
2 points? Number one, it's been said that the left are still sacrificing babies today. It's a religion of abortion. It's a religion of the devaluation, degradation, or the sacrifice of your own flesh and blood. And there you get into a lot of, we got to be very careful on this topic, although the dam is about to break. We were right up in the forefront of the people reporting on the Huma Abedin, Hillary Clinton, Anthony Weiner laptop from hell that mixing with the Epstein stuff.
What a gang.
mix in the Epstein stuff, mix in the hundreds of thousands of disappeared children who have been trafficked into the United States for God knows what purpose, either work or worse.
Children? How many children are missing, Brian? Do you have the recent numbers? 5 or 8,000 or 10,000 missing children?
No. Hundreds of thousands. We were
there you go.
north of 300,000. They found 15,000. So that means they're about 95% to go, roughly, something like that. So it's been said that they're still doing their human sacrifices today. It's not symbolic. It's not just Maria Abramovich. We're having a spirit cooking party. And look, we baked a cake to look like a human. Here, let's have a slice. Ew, gross. Okay, but it's sort of Halloween. Here, eat this cake in remembrance of me. We'll mock Christ or something. Okay, like I get that, but like it's not just symbolic. It's actual literal. Like there's stuff Dan Bongino has alluded to that has shaken him to his core. He said a week or two ago.
Oh, they've opened up the kettle and the manhole cover over the swamp, if you will, and they're getting a vision or a view of what you and I have known. I mean, when you study the Kennedy assassination for 50 years, like I have, that swamp, man, I'm telling you. But here's the deal. The deal is this. There is so much Satanism and demonism in the government, and a lot of it's with liberal and moderate Republicans. They don't care about these kids. That's why they let Epstein go the first time. Those were Republicans that let him go. The Republicans are just as bad as the liberal Democrats in a lot of cases. Now, thanks to President Trump, we're starting to weed them out of the Republican Party, especially here in Texas. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But the point is, it's sacrificing your babies to Moloch. It's not even abortion. It's abortion on demand, on steroids, and infanticide. Hillary Clinton says that baby is not your possession until you drive off the hospital parking lot. Until then, it's the government's possession. That witch, that Jezebel, if she doesn't get saved, she's going to burn in hell right with Hitler.
Didn't she write a book? Didn't she write a book saying that it takes a tribe?
It takes a village. Right.
A tribe.
Rush Limbaugh said it takes a village idiot. Hillary Clinton is a piece of, I believe she is demon possessed. I believe she's a full-fledged witch, and we don't know what kind of sacrifices her and John Podesta have alleged.
I think we do.
Yeah,
we can't even really talk about it, but we know.
Who's the Bohemian Grove guy that just kicked the bucket? He was a political prostitute. He was tied up with all
Kissinger?
of that. No. He was a consultant to the last 9 presidents. He just died. See, we're going to remember his name like we remember
Hulk Hogan.
Huh?
Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. No. Hulk was a good guy.
No, that was another one.
But anyway, per your question, Jehovah's always been the same. I had a professor at Cleveland State University years ago. I was taking some graduate courses through Ashland Theological Seminary. I usually would skip out on several classes and head to an Indians afternoon game, but we're not going to go there. And Dr. Klingensmith, one of my profs at Cleveland State University, said, to say, he was a retired minister, to say that the God of the Old Testament was a God just of wrath and judgment, and the God of the New Testament is a God of love and peace, is shoddy, SHODDY, theology at best, because it's not true. The Bible says Jesus has been the same yesterday, today, and forever. Jehovah of the Old Testament was just as loving as Jesus of the New Testament. But you had different dispensations. There was no Bible. There was no Word of God. And so that was a great question you asked. We could spend 3 hours just on that.
So Jehovah in the Old Testament, Yeshua.
Yeshua is Jesus in the Old and New Testaments. Joshua, the book Joshua, who marched around 7 times and destroyed the walls of Jericho. The word Joshua in Hebrew means Jehovah saves or Jehovah Savior. It's an actually Old Testament derivation of Jesus. In fact, I was going to name our first son Joshua until I started doing some research, and it was very positive. It was very nebulous. And I didn't, I know in this Hispanic community, they name their kids Jesus or Jesus. So we went with Jason, which was what I always wanted anyway. When I was 12 years old, I said, if I ever have a boy, I'm going to name him Jason, which is also a Bible name in the New Testament. But yeah, it's Jehovah or Yahweh in the Old Testament, unless if you're Jewish, you say El Shaddai, and they don't like to use either name. And then
Jehovah,
in the new
Yahweh,
Jehovah or Yahweh.
yeah, that's right.
And in the Old Testament, Jesus is either Messiah or Joshua, Yeshua, like you said, different pronunciation, same word. And then in the New Testament, Jehovah is often called Father, and his Son, the only begotten Son, John 3:16, Psalm chapter 2, he is called Jesus Christ, Jesus, the Anointed One. In the Hebrew, it's Messiah, and in Greek, it's Christos. The Old Testament was written mainly in Hebrew and Aramaic, and the New Testament in Greek and Latin. So in the Old Testament, he was Jehovah. I'm going to cut it short, simple. Old Testament, he was Jehovah God with the coming Messiah. In the New Testament, it is the Holy Father, the Heavenly Father, and his perfect Son, Jesus Christ. Does that make sense?
Yahweh was Old Testament as well?
Yahweh, yeah, is Old Testament. It often used interchangeably in the New Testament among churches, especially among your Pentecostal, Neo-Pentecostal, and Charismatic churches. They prefer the term Yahweh. Most denominations prefer the term Jehovah, but it's the same. It's like you're Brian, and you're also my godson.
Okay. Now the Talmud says other things about Jesus Christ, right? They have him boiling in a pot of excrement. They see him as a false god and a bad guy. The Talmud.
The Talmud. I think you're thinking of the Quran.
No, it's the Talmud.
Are you sure?
Well, here's what we do here on this program. This is an educational program,
yeah,
people.
Hey,
we look things up in real time.
I don't have all the answers. Look them up. The Talmud says Jesus should be boiling in hot oil.
Yeah, well, let's see. Does the Talmud say...
That sounds like the Quran.
Bad things about Jesus Christ. All right. Sometime, hang on, can we see it on the screen? Okay, good. It's the right aspect. Hang on. TLDR bullet point quotes. That's too long, didn't read version, bullet point quotes. Let's see. They said on Sanhedrin 43a, on the eve of Passover, they hanged Yeshu because he practiced sorcery and enticed Israel to apostasy. Oh.
I don't study the Talmud that much, so that's new information to me. Thank you.
Yeah, it says context describing the execution of a figure named Yeshu, potentially Jesus, for heresy and sorcery aligning with the crucifixion timing in Christian narratives. Then there's Gittin 57a. He, Yeshu, is going to be burned in boiling excrement. Context, part of a narrative about figures in hell, interpreted by some as a polemical reference to Jesus's fate, reflecting Jewish-Christian tensions. And then they said Yeshu turned to idolatry and he was unfaithful to God, criticized for straying from Jewish teachings. So anyway, it's just a little sidebar, I suppose.
Yeah, that does fit the narrative. The reason they crucified Jesus, 2 reasons Jesus was crucified. Number 1, he claimed to be the Son of God and the Messiah. And the Jews said, no, that's blasphemy. And then from the political side, if you flip the coin, the second reason he was murdered, and it wasn't assassination, it was a political assassination on the cross, was the political realm and aspect from Rome. Caesar felt that he was a threat to his throne. And of course, at that time, Jerusalem and Judea and Israel was a colony. Palestine were colonies of the great Roman Empire. And so the Jewish leaders got together with the Roman leaders and they said, we got to whack this guy. And they did. With no crimes. He has never been charged with a crime. He never committed a crime. He never sinned, we believe, as Christian believers. And so
he did flip the money changing tables. What was that all about?
When I toured the temple the first time when I was in Israel, working with the IDF, the guide, who was the daughter of the the best-selling author in Jerusalem. She told us that Jesus picked up the money changer. She was Jewish. Why would she lie? Picked up the money changer's table and threw it across the courtyard, literally like Superman. She said normally it took about 7 men and a boy to move it 3 inches, and it was like marble. Jesus picked it up over his head and threw it across the courtyard, and he says, "You shall not make my house a den of thieves." They had vendors that were selling a bunch of trinkets for sacrifices, and so forth, and then he chased them out with a whip. After he threw their table across the courtyard, a great distance over his head, he chased them out with a whip. So Jesus was not the namby-pamby, mamby-pamby, effeminate character that the Hollywood movies, up until the Passion of Christ, make him out to be sometimes.
There's a new Passion of the Christ double movie coming out. Did you catch that?
I did. I can't wait to see it.
27, I believe. It'll come out back to back.
Beautiful.
Two-parter. But the money changers, were those like the bankers, or those were just people making a few, like what was the problem with the money changers anyway?
Well, they were selling doves, turtle doves, pigeons for sacrifices, small animals, and they were hawking it. It was like a midway to carnival, and it was turning the holy temple, into a carnival atmosphere for profit. Jesus said, "Hey, if you want to sell them outside and you're serious about it and you're going to tithe on the money, that's one thing. But you're bringing all your wares in here, and plus, it reminded me of some of our, how should I say this? Some of our Middle Eastern people. We went to Thanksgiving right after 9/11 for Jason's. He wanted to go to the Macy's parade for his graduation present from high school. And we went to Ground Zero. It was right after 9/11. And a bunch of Middle Eastern vendors were selling trinkets after the relatives and ancestors of the mayoral candidate of New York killed 1,000 New Yorkers. Just like that, we're going to elect a mayor he was a progeny of ancestry that bombed us on 9/11. His people killed thousands of people. Anyway, we'll talk about the mayor later. But yeah, so it was a merchandising thing, and Jesus said not inside the temple, no.
So it wasn't the bankers per se; it was just merchants.
There might have been a banker in there, but it's mainly merchants. Yeah, blue collar merchants, vendors.
You mentioned a word that got me thinking. Another point, we said profit. Well, I went to PROPHET, and it got me thinking. It seems like we're being primed for an alien invasion in a couple of months now. Have you caught wind of this? Have you been paying attention to this story? There's some alien craft headed right toward us. And you're like, oh God, here we go again. Here's the next one. They call it Project Bluebeam, where they can use holograms and put up the image of whatever you want a certain region to see, where maybe Jesus Christ comes back with a message, or Muhammad comes back with a message. Lord knows what that could even be. Have you heard these rumblings of Project Bluebeam happening this year?
Yes. Oh, yes. Our mutual friend, the late Jim Mars, and I was honored to be at a very small funeral at his house. We fired his cannon, and his widow took me through the house, and I saw his personal library. And Jim was kind of, I don't want to say shifting from research on the JFK assassination, but he was maybe deprioritizing it a little bit. And he was studying the UFO landings at nearby Stephenville. In fact, I'm officiating a funeral Monday in Stephenville. And yeah, there's Jim. In fact, I was going to wear Jim's cap tonight, and I couldn't locate it in time, out of honor for him. And
a fedora?
I was going to wear my fedora tonight, yes. And Jim and I were good buddies. We researched the assassination together, which was to me a great honor, because he was my hero back when I was a layman on the subject. I read Crossfire, and it blew me away in the early 90s. And yeah, so Jim started studying the sightings and the scramblings of military jets from both Fort Hood and Carswell Naval Base here in Fort Worth, because of all the sightings. Yeah, and then some of our spiritual sources have told us about this big spaceship that's headed this way, and other people say there's a big meteorite headed this way, and so forth. And I see that I'm down to 10%, less than 10% on my battery. I may have to call my director and producer in here.
You have a bell?
I have a bell? Hey, I'm prepared, but I was a Boy Scout. Be prepared.
That's ornate too. That's
This was President Kennedy's. Mrs. Lincoln used to use it on his desk, and I'm selling it for $1,000. Yeah, it's low battery, it says. And
what type of tale are you spinning for us now?
Yeah, no, this was not on President Kennedy's.
But it is ornate. It is.
It looks very regal, does it not?
It certainly does.
Yes, ancient and regal.
Speaking of ancient and regal, Unholy Hoax here. He was in for our early show today on the TNAM Daily Show. He says, I was raised Catholic and we love Mel Gibson. I'm glad he's making those new films. Passion of the Christ was epic.
Epic.
And Mel Gibson is trying to save California from the land grab from Gavin Newsom, trying to steal up that land and turn it into like housing projects.
My first comment at the top of the show was going to be, I'm glad you brought up gruesome. If you help me with this in your audience, I'm telling you, we can get him out of the race. I've done it. I did it with Nikki Haley. I worked the phones for 2 years with Trump's people and my people down south. And I said, we got to get rid of Nikki Haley. And if she's on the ticket, as much as I love Donald Trump, I will vote for Bobby Kennedy for president. But his son also told him the same thing. Dad, if you put Nikki, not that he ever was serious about it. He couldn't stand Nikki Haley. Yeah, but let's do the same let's get Gavin Newsom out. Here's what we're going to do. He's got a new nickname, not gruesome. Let the president use that. Here it is. Gavin, $6 a gallon, Newsom. Because they're paying $5-6 a gallon. It's going up to $7 or $8.
Well, he's going to be gone. He's termed out. They're going to put somebody else in.
No, he's running for president, though.
Oh, please.
No, he's definitely running for president.
All right, let me go back to Nikki Haley.
Let
me go back to Nikki Haley for a second.
Hey, I picked J.D. Vance 3 years before anybody knew who he was, before Trump knew who he was. I'm telling you,
back when J.D. was heavily criticizing
president on the Democratic ticket.
Back when J.D. Vance was heavily criticizing Trump, drinking the Kool-Aid of the Trump derangement syndrome people.
Well, he's like you. He's an independent thinker, but he's a Marine. Never underestimate a U.S. Marine. Hoorah! Semper Fi.
All right. Facts on that. Hello, David Bann from Ontario.
Yes.
David's regular listening makes us an international program.
Wow.
But we look at Justin Trudeau the same way we look at Gavin Newsom, just a complete globalist puppet selling his people out, rotting away the core of the nation. Both.
A lightweight. These guys are political lightweights. Today, senile James Carville said, we got the best bench in the history of the Democratic Party. They ain't got nobody. Excuse the bad grammar. They ain't got nobody. Not only do they not have a bench, when AOC or whatever name is, and Gavin Newsom and Timmy Waltz are your front runners, you don't, and the mayor of Fort Wayne or Gary, Indiana, South Bend, you don't have a bench. We got a bench. I mean, we could run JD, we could run Rubio. I mean, I still like the governor of Florida. I don't care. And he's patched it up with Trump. In fact, I'd like to see either Rubio or him be the VP. But anyway, you talk about a bench, man. We're like the murderer's row of the New York Yankees in 27.
They're showing here that Arnold Schwarzenegger's promising to terminate Gavin Newsom's illegal scheme to gerrymander all of California to make our representatives blue forever, according to this post. I don't know about that entirely, but they're saying an NGO run by Gavin Newsom's wife. Look, it's all money laundering, man. All these people have been doing this for a very long time, Bruce.
They've been
scamming us and, shaving off the edges of the silver coins to melt them down into more coins. 10% for the big guy. Everybody gets a taste. By the time you pass the water bucket to the fire, like on Little Rascals, if everybody takes a drink, you go to dump it and there's no water. Like it's literally like dust coming out because everybody took a little dip of it. And that's what our political system has been.
You remember the barbell? They would be doing a skit or a play for the kids in the neighborhood, Little Rascals or Our Gang, and then Stymie would come and carry it away. They were balloons. Well, those old-fashioned barbells with a big black ball on either end and a little thin bar, that's the 33rd district of Texas. I ran 2 congressional campaigns in that district. Why is it a barbell? Because over here in southwest Dallas County, it's all African-American constituents pretty much. And over here, it's all liberal Hispanics. And then in between, in that little pole, that little barbell handle, are also minorities, all liberal Democrats. The gall, the audacity, the bodaciousness, as we say in Texas, of these Democrats to be whining about gerrymandering. They did it here in Texas 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And Ted Cruz's dad told me, he said, we'll never win the 33rd. He said, I know you're running some campaigns down there for Congress. We had our apartments. We were looking for apartments in D.C. I thought I was going to go to Washington with the last candidate I ran for as one of his top campaign managers and consultants, Fabian Vasquez. And but not only did they steal the election, but they gerrymandered the 33rd to where Rafael Cruz told me no Republicans ever going to win that. So, and then Illinois, they're all hiding up in Illinois, the most gerrymandered state in the union. You talk about hypocrisy from these jerks. And it's all about money and power. You're right. And it's all about Chinese collusion. Everywhere you look.
And by the way, take a look. I believe this is San Francisco. I mean, it's a hellscape. Gavin Newsom has been presiding over an absolute train wreck. So I don't know what Gavin thinks he's going to accomplish. I don't know anybody that likes him. Bruce, I don't think. Here, let me stop sharing this post for a second. I don't think these big blue cities actually vote Democrat. I think they've found a way to mechanize, weaponize, and jury rig the big blue cities to create ballots that get counted. I don't think these are real people voting Democrat. I don't think they have support even in their big blue cities. So actually, that's a good pivot point there to ask, what do you make of President Trump saying that he wants to redo the census and make sure that it's citizens only? Because apparently we've been counting more than just citizens. It doesn't make any sense to me that we've ended up in this spot or how we got there. But any thoughts on that? Because that's a new one, and he's trying to do a census before the next 10-year census to change things and get rid of, I forget the numbers they've said, 10, 15, 20, or a massive amount of Democrat losses because they pump the big blue cities full of illegal, alien, non-citizen invaders, and then they get counted so that their congressional reps are more powerful. They get more votes. And you're like, what in the world? Why are we prioritizing the overthrow and invasion and corruption and twisting of our country, of our democratic republic? That was a multi-pronged question there, but it was about the census and gerrymandering.
Let me give you some statistics, Brian. 43% of the voters in New York in the last presidential election went to President Trump. 43%. But 73% of the representatives in Washington are Democrats, liberal Democrats. Let me repeat that. 43% of the people that went to the polls and pulled the lever or checked off a box for Donald J. Trump, those votes, 43% in New York State, just not too many months ago, went to Trump. And yet the Republicans only have less than 26% of the representation. Let me give you another stat. 38% of California voted for Trump, and we think it was much higher than that. We think he may have even won California. But you're right on target, Brian. 38% of California voted for Trump, and yet approximately 80% of the congressmen are gerrymandered on the Democratic side. Hello.
So you say let it rip nationwide. This is not Republicans pulling a stunt. This is Republicans undoing the stunt of the Democrats.
I walked into a group of very radical, ultra liberal ladies in Detroit a couple years ago. I would say right before Biden won.
Air quote.
And I didn't tell, big double air quotes, before he claimed to have won. And I just told them I was from Texas. They thought I was a Democrat. And I played stupid and a little bit of espionage action going on. And they said, I don't know why you people down there in Texas want that picture voting card, that pictorial voting card with the photograph. That's racism. And that's going to keep minorities from voting. And of course, I played along with them. But it's idiocy. You have to have a photograph to get on an airplane. You have to have a photograph to buy cigarettes or beer. It's ridiculous. But they've cheated since Tammany Hall in 1880 in New York, and they perfected it in 1960. Thank the Lord for JFK. That was a good one that slipped through the cracks. I mean, we had dead people. It's in my book, my best-selling book, which we're getting ready to reprint, Eternal Flame. In 1960, dead people voted twice. Yes, in Cook County, Illinois. Dead people voted twice, and living Democrats voted 3 and 4 times. So we want a new census. And I'm proud of President Trump. God bless him, man. He's the first man since Reagan to have any guts. Yes. And plus, they counted all these illegal aliens and terrorists and Chinese military troops that were over here. As
military-aged men have made up such a shocking number of the people who have been pre-positioned across this country as potential sleeper cells, Manchurian candidates. It's the only reason why I held my nose and said, I don't like the amount of money that's in this budget. This big, beautiful boondoggle. I don't like the amount of money. We're too far in debt. I know we're bringing in tariff money. I know we're cutting it with Doge. I know. But still, we shouldn't be spending this much, except the only caveat is that we're in the middle of a 16-year war against the Obama doctrine. They have a 16-year head start, and they are hell-bent on destroying this country. I've been reporting this for 14 years.
Yes, you have. By the way,
just a second, Bruce. I told Michelle the other day, we're just 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America. He meant it. A fundamental transformation 5 days away.
Remember Joe the plumber in Toledo?
Yeah, I know Joe. I know Joe Biden. I thought he was the most qualified. Made him number 2. And I did hear about that other Joe, Joe the plumber. I think he's a bit astroturfed. I don't know. There's something a little off about him. Like maybe he's hiding his background. I don't know. Maybe where he came from. Maybe he's not who he says he. Well, wait, that's me.
Yes. Yes.
All right, that's what we're gonna do from now on. I'm gonna jump into a character, and you're gonna hit the bell when I'm done doing the character.
My producer said every time you make a good point, I'm also to ring the bell. And I see my battery is still failing. It's down to 5%.
Wait, do you not have a charger? Plug the charger in.
The charger is plugged in, but it doesn't seem to be functioning. So the technical crew is coming.
Hey, so are you going to drop out in 4 minutes? Then okay, make your.
No, man, we're just getting warmed up.
No, you said your phone is. You're not going to have the juice.
Yes.
Okay, we got
little lightning bolt in the.
Yes, there is a lightning bolt, so it should be good, right?
All right, I will take this opportunity while you check on the lightning bolt. Yeah, David Ban here says they've been rigging elections for a very long time. Yeah, I know. I love how you got to tell people to go to CISA. What is it? CISA.gov/rumor control. There we go at the bottom of the screen. I say this to you under duress for fear of cancellation. You need to know that there's countervailing views to our craziness. They'll tell you 2020 is the only free and fair election in the history of elections. Everything else was rigged, especially if a Republican won. But yeah, 2020 was the only fair one. And you got to admit, 2 + 2 = 5, says George Orwell. 2 + 2 is 5. Joe Biden is totally our most popular president of all time. Look at all the merch he sold. Look how beloved he was to all those women and children he was creepily sniffing upon and Look, just ask his daughter. She loved how he would go upstairs and inappropriately shower with her, and she would wait till very late at night, according to the diary entry, if you can believe such a thing, because she was absolutely creeped out by. Look at the degenerate kid that they crapped out, the money launderer himself, Hunter, with the laptop from hell, where 51 former intelligence officials, now known as traitors, told you that had all the classic earmarks of Russian disinformation, but they're going to try to play verbal semantics and claim that they didn't commit a coup, they didn't stage a treasonous act to overthrow the duly elected president of the United States, or to spy on him to keep him from getting there, or to impeach him once he got there, or to frame him for insurrection when he didn't call for violent acts. He asked for people to be peaceful and patriotic. Yeah, it's like every narrative I'm going with is kind of upside down, isn't it?
How about that freak Joe Scarborough? Oh, he's the most intelligent. I just met with him twice. He has never been sharper. And then they do an interview with Biden. By the way, if you ever looked at Joe Scarborough, I see mental retardation in his face. That man is not right. And but yeah, it's the classic story of denial. There's a swimmer in the river in Africa, and it's called denial. And by the way, you weren't even allowed to question. Remember this? Even though they stole it lock, stock, and barrel, you weren't even allowed to question the validity of the election, or you were a traitor. You were a Nazi.
Well, I showed you the beginning of my video, beginning of declassified, the unreleased J6 interviews. I held that footage for 2 years.
No, it was.
I had a buddy, finally, he's like, I want to buy your footage. Get me your footage. I'm like, yeah, I just don't want to be affiliated with what that turned into. It was a complete mess for a year and a half. I was deleted off Facebook, deleted off Instagram, deleted off of, demonetized on YouTube and shadow banned on Twitter. Like, everything was just, I'm like, what's the point of me talking about this? Nothing good is going to come of it.
Yeah.
But then finally we released that documentary, Declassified, the unreleased J6.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch it. I have yet to see it. I've heard some good things about it. But the point is this redistricting and all of it. The laptop, the redistricting, my sources on the border patrol told me that they saw Chinese armed troops, uniformed Chinese troops, pouring over the border.
Military-aged men. It's an invasion.
We're
in the middle of a war repelling an invasion.
We are in a war. And you know what? Should we pivot to Ukraine? Because my sources in Ukraine and boots on the ground are telling me that we've been losing this war for a long time.
Who is we?
Well, Biden. It's Biden's war.
Victoria Nuland, Biden, Obama.
Yeah, you're right. It's a Biden-Obama.
Because it goes back to 2014 when they overthrew Yanukovych and put their puppet in there.
Right.
When they got Zelensky.
Right. And my sources are telling me that Zelensky is a Nazi. And it is infiltrated with Nazis. And let me say this. I'm the most anti-communist guy you will ever meet. I make Archie Bunker look like a liberal. I make Jerry Falwell and Rush Limbaugh, the late Jerry and Rush, look like flaming liberals. I was asked 3 times to be the president and chairman of the John Birch Society in Dallas, Texas, the most anti-communist group in the world. They begged me 3 times to take it. Okay, so I'm not in any way defending the communist system or Russia and Putin together. But let me just give you the facts. Russia was our ally in World War I. Russia was our ally in World War II. Ukraine has always been a quasi-state of Russia. How would we react if they invaded Hawaii, or Alaska? I think we would be upset. I think Biden would have been upset. In fact, President Kennedy was upset when Cuba went communistic 95 miles south of Miami. So the point is this. They've been playing cat and mouse. They've been losing the war. Zelensky and his military have been losing the war. Now they're dragging 60 and 65-year-old geezers like me into combat against their will. They're dragging teenagers, 14 and 15, into combat against their will.
Those videos are terrible. I hate those kidnapping videos.
Oh, they're and Putin could end this thing in 3 weeks or less if he wanted to.
He doesn't want to, and now he's pissed off Trump.
And now he's ticked off Trump, and we keep saying we're going to admit them to NATO, which would really tick Putin off. And we have no vested in. And I love the Ukrainian people. I grew up in the Ukrainian neighborhood in Parma, Ohio. Man, because those women cook. Man, they had 2 Christmases. I was jealous. The Easter eggs. The Easter eggs that they used to paint. I love Russian people. I really love Ukrainian people. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the crook. And by the way, the people in Ukraine are starting to rise up. The few that are left. Kiev has been turned into a parking lot, and they're saying, what has our president, Mr. Zelensky, done with the billions and billions and billions that Biden and even Trump has sent us? There's no accounting for it. It's a laundering system, like you said.
Yeah. But Trump is on one hand, Trump is ready to fall in line and start doing it. He's ready. He's been screaming to stop this war, and Putin doesn't want it. But at least now he's turned it into a financial windfall instead of a burden. Why wasn't it this way from the beginning? Are you out of your mind? Well, the Democrats are just pirates. We think of them as a political party. They're domestic terrorists and they're pirates. They're thieves. They're just pirates and thieves and traitors. That's all the Democrats are. Oh, no, they stand up for civil rights and the little guy. No, they don't. No, they don't. They're robbing everybody. They're just pointing at the super rich guy going, he took it. Meanwhile, they're just grabbing and stuffing their he took it. It was that guy. It was that successful company, and they're just stuffing their pockets the whole time while they're keeping you distracted.
Exactly.
That party is. But the second part I was going to add, though, is that President Trump is now not on the hook for buying all these weapons. We're selling them to the European Union. All right, go ahead, pay Lockheed. Go ahead, pay Boeing. Go ahead, pay Raytheon. Go ahead, pay our great American war machine. We're not buying it and giving it away anymore. You can buy it from us, and we'll make money off it if you are so hell-bent on having this war. So at least that aspect, I believe, has been turned upside down.
Yes. And in all fairness to President Trump, he tried to end it peacefully. And what Americans do not understand is that Putin is not a communist. He's not. He's not a communist in the way that Khrushchev was, and Brezhnev and Stalin in London before him. He's a nationalist. He is a nationalist. He is less communistic than Nancy Pelosi and Pocahontas. He's less communistic and socialistic than Gavin $6 a gallon Newsom in California. But he is a nationalist, and he's a proud Russian. And you're not going to back him into a corner, and you're not going to order him around like a kindergartner. And we have failed over and over again to listen to the wisdom of President Dwight Eisenhower, was leaving office in his last speech, his last televised message to the American public. Watch out for the military-industrial complex. I was speaking to the Kiwanis Club, one of them. I've spoken to several here in Brownwood, Texas. And during question and answer after my lecture, it occurred to me that in my lifetime, we've had some good presidents. Eisenhower, very good. Interstate Highway System for Defense, started the space program. It used to be NACA. In fact, I got a plaque of your grandfather's right back here, right there. And it says Malcolm Engelman, 1957 to 1971, NACA to NASA, when President Kennedy changed it to NASA. Good president. And Nixon, in spite of Watergate, and he made one bad mistake. He devalued the dollar, took us off the gold standard. But he was a good president.
But that was Kissinger heavily influencing him on that.
Yeah.
And by the way, Watergate, the biggest nothing burger I've ever heard of. Look at what Obama and Clinton did with the deep state, with the fake FISA warrants to spy on the entire Trump campaign. That was the Hiroshima of Watergates. But they pretended like it didn't happen, and they had the gall to call Obama, the biggest traitor we've ever seen, a scandal-free administration. I mean, we couldn't get gaslit anymore. Even if we were on a natural gas field, huffing fumes, we couldn't be gaslit any more than what we've been through.
Absolutely. Well, George McGovern allegedly had communist ties, and that's why Nixon bugged it. It was a two-bit break-in and a one-bit scandal. But as the great Jack Anderson, who I got to meet and interview one time, Washington Merriground, the successor to Drew Pearson, and Sybil Leek, who is a researcher on the JFK assassination and a great journalist, and of all people, Bert Sugar, the boxing editor. They did a book together, all three of them, saying that if you go against the deep state, and this is back in the late 60s, early 70s, right after Watergate, early 70s, if you go after the deep state or the swamp, either they will take you out through assassination or impeachment. They used impeachment with Nixon. And anyway, so I was lecturing to the Kiwanis Club, and it dawned on me. I said, there's been three great presidents. I said, Kennedy, Reagan, and Trump. All three Irishmen. Trump, Scotch-Irish. All three Irishmen. All three wanted to put us back on the gold standard. All three wanted to do away with the Fed. All three were for massive tax cuts for the middle class. All three were for the poor people. All three were honest. All three were multimillionaires. All three had problems or issues with the opposite sex. Reagan was our first divorced president. Jane Wyman, we won't go there. President Kennedy Mrs. Kennedy probably should have divorced him. But I don't care. The point is this. And then all three were shot. Unfortunately, JFK did not survive. Thank God Reagan, and thank God Trump did. In Butler, PA, one of my hometowns, my dentist was in Butler, PA. But the point is this. Is that crazy? And all three were former Democrats. By the way, the real Democrats are coming over our side. Bobby Kennedy, his nephew, and Tulsi Gabbard. They're Democrats. They're sick of the communism. We used to sit there and laugh when I was in high school. Look at Gus Hall's running for president in 72. The Communist Party. This Democratic Party is far, far to the left of Gus Hall's party in the early 70s.
American Made here. Hello, American Made. How are you? By the way, remind me your name and where you are watching from today. I don't recall you as one of the regulars like David up in Ontario or Nick in Florida or who else in here? Unholy Hoax down in San Antonio, Texas. We have our regular. I consider myself to be a bartender. These are the regulars. I open up the bar, they grab a seat, and we sit down and we talk about stuff. We unpack things together.
And they can enjoy this and not have to worry about a designated driver on the way home.
Exactly. But American Made says Nixon did great things in office.
He did.
Yeah, and he absolutely had his term stolen from him.
Absolutely. He was ending the Vietnam War with peace and the Cambodian War with peace and the war with Laos with peace. Richard Nixon, in my humble opinion, and I am a presidential historian. In fact, I just won a contest. I just blew everybody off the map in a presidential trivia contest in Brownwood, Texas. In my opinion, the most intelligent and intellectual president in our lifetime and the lifetime of our parents and grandparents was not Obama. It was not even JFK. He was an intellectual. It was Richard Nixon. Brilliant, especially on foreign policy and diplomacy. He
did let Kissinger work him, though.
Yeah, and you know what? The first thing Reagan promised to do was fire Kissinger. None of these guys are perfect. We expect Trump to be more
I know.
perfect,
Nobody's perfect. You're right. I know.
So, yeah, Nixon made some mistakes, okay? He devalued the dollar. He took us off the gold standard. He gets criticized by conservatives for normalizing relations with China. Not me, because at that point in the Cold War, you got to put it in context, Russia was our adversary the way China is now, okay? China is no threat to us, okay? Well, what if one guy told me, a leading Democrat told me, well, what if they invade Poland? I said, I will go over there and enlist in the Polish army and help defend Poland. They're not going to invade Poland. It's not that stupid.
Well, ask the opposite of that. Go, what if they don't?
Yeah, what if they don't?
What? I got to preemptively drop nukes and send my kid? Based on what if they don't?
Yeah, liberals want.
By the way, I don't think Poland was pushing NATO forces and weapons aimed into their country on their border. I don't think Poland's been doing that to Russia to provoke a reaction the way that Ukraine was. Because, by the way, keep in mind, in this grand conspiracy, and I want to get your thoughts on the grand conspiracy as it's being unpacked now, what they've been doing, it's all obvious now. We can see the pattern. Everything, there's a joke that says everyone I don't like is Hitler. and you've seen like the little book. It's like a children's book, and it's like Hitler riding a sled of I don't know, like unicorns and rainbows. And it's like, everyone I don't like is Hitler. But to the deep state and the Democrats, I just call them the deep state Democrats anymore, because I think they are the exact same thing. I don't see daylight. I know some Republicans pretend to be Republicans, but they're in the deep state. But I'm just calling them deep state Democrats. Everything the deep state doesn't like, Russia did it. Oh, Russia rigged the election. Oh, he's a Putin puppet. Oh, yeah, he's blackmailed by Russia. Oh, yeah, Russia hacked the election. Yep, don't you know? Everything has been pin the tail on Russia for 20 years, and it's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
I don't know if it's to steal the resources. I don't know if it's because Putin is a strong Orthodox Christian, and they can't have a major country led by a Orthodox Christian that's not getting into all the all of the gender dysphoria disorder, madness, the hysteria. Because, by the way, that's another thing that, if it's Luciferian, or if it's demonic, or, whatever you want to do, satanic, to, mess with human creation. Well, what's more messed up than trying to convince somebody there's something that they're not, and then mangling them with unnecessary genital mutilation so that their plumbing could be ruined for the rest of their lives. They can never achieve an orgasm. They can never have a kid. And who knows how it's going to heal, if it's going to heal. And it's a lifetime of cleaning and maintenance. It's what's more demonic than messing with somebody's head to convince them there's something they're not, and then try to permanently change them into something that they can never be. So I don't know. I'm drawing parallels here, but let's say
no, good parallels. I was going to mention that before. Not only has Russia been a close ally and really, really helped us win World War II. I mean, you can argue that. And again, I'm not a big fan of Putin. I'm not a big fan of Russia. I'm the most anti-communist man you'll ever meet. But the truth is, they're also a Christian nation. I'm glad you brought that up. The Russian Orthodox Church.
It's the only one not the only one, but
they got the Roman Catholics,
big one in the East.
Catholics. They got the Eastern Catholics, which is Russian Orthodox, which is what your mother grew up in. I used to go to in fact, I christened you in a Russian Orthodox church in Cleveland. And the sister church was the one used in the Godfather. Deer Hunter. Godfather. But seriously, they're a Christian nation. Iran is not a Christian nation. Okay? Hamas is not a Christian group. And China is not a Christian nation. They're a bunch of pagans, believe in reincarnation and Buddhism, if they believe in anything. Basically atheistic. So, and I'll tell you another reason they hate. You know why the left in this country hates Putin? Because he's anti-homosexual. Let me just say it. He's anti-homosexual and anti-lesbian. That's one of the top 3 reasons they hate Putin.
Getting comments over here from Unholy Hoax and David Bann, both saying I agree. American made from South Carolina, who he points out is a red state from the 70s. By the way, I don't know if it's a he. Maybe it's a he. Says we should really reopen the insane asylums. Yes. Now that guy, Reagan gets blamed for that. I don't know how fair that is.
No, that was Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter took the guns away from the military police and the shore patrol, so they can't even defend themselves at Fort Hood or yesterday. Hello. You got to call a little policewoman in from Helene to take out the Muslim doctor who shot and killed all those people in the PX at Fort Hood. Yeah, Jimmy Carter, I hate to say it, he was the last Democrat I voted for. I worked for him. I campaigned for him twice. The last. I was the Reagan Democrat original. But yeah, Carter's the one who did a lot of that garbage. And thank God McGovern didn't get in there. He would have done a lot more of it. I'm telling you, it is. I was going to mention to you about, Gavin Newsom. One of the reasons the Democrats want all these illegal aliens to register and to vote.
That's right. You were making that point.
Okay. Yes. No, that's okay. We're covering everything. This is good. It's one of the best shows we've ever done. They have had so many abortions on the far left. They're running out of numbers. They're running out of voters. So what we do, we just open the borders and invite all these people in. And 90% of them are going to vote Democratic because of all the handouts and the entitlements. Yeah. Today, 16% of Democrats themselves say their party's going the wrong direction. That's the worst declination since the late and mid 90s of any political party. Reformed, libertarian, Republican, liberal, conservative, Democratic. 16% of the Democrats say that, you know why? Because they're following the far, far left of Pocahontas and this bartender, no offense, bartender AOC. And now this communist Muslim hater who is a Hitler running for mayor of New York. I'm asking everybody to send Curtis Lewa $5. Let's go online and send him. Every American send Curtis Lewa $5. And I owe the former governor Cuomo an apology, public apology. For years now, especially since COVID, Brian, I've been saying he's the worst governor in American history. No, it's $6 a gallon Newsom.
Gretchen Whitmer, who faked her kidnapping, is one of them.
How about Hochul? When you were covering in the Bronx, she said all those Puerto Ricans that showed up for Trump today, they're a bunch of clowns. So add them to the deplorable list. Hochul, what a disaster! What a nutcase.
That was fun when I went to the Bronx.
You did a great job, man.
You got to watch that, huh?
Hey, man, I was proud of you. You hit the big time with that gig, and you did a stellar job, man. You were equal to the task. You didn't. Engelman's never crumble under pressure, whether it's sports or politics or showmanship or stand-up comics.
That was a fun one. By the way, since you referenced it and I had it peeled up here,
bring it up for us. Bring it up for the
yeah. I'll show you the intro to Bannon's program. They used several of my clips on this one. This was on Real America's Voice. Where's the page? There we go.
Trump's big Bronx rally.
Crowds are pouring in here, thousands of people.
We are in the Bronx today.
I'm interviewing him.
I think the Bronx is going to show up for Donald Trump.
These people up here want change.
Biden's bringing us down, man.
The only man capable to make those changes, and he will make those changes, is Donald Trump.
50% of the people in this area live below the federal poverty line.
They do great
Like
intros.
what you see going on in the city?
No, my city's upside down.
Democrats let the people down?
Sure, look at Ocasio-Cortez.
These people are furious. They feel like the Democrats have taken them for granted all this time.
Biden's support among minorities isn't just eroding because of failed policies, but because more people are waking up and seeing how much of a liar he really is.
The biggest issue right now is the border. You got a mass invasion everywhere, especially here in New York City. They go to the big cities.
The great American cities are really struggling right now under the weight of what Biden's done at the border, and it's palpable.
Crime is raised at least 160%. I get gunshots on my block on a weekly basis.
We need to make America safe again. Donald Trump, the #1 president, we love you. We need you. Come save us. Save us from the crime. Save us from the criminals.
And people from every race and color, the Bronx needs help.
The people have seen the past 3.5 years, and they are ready for a change.
Dominicans and black people in the streets cheering for Trump.
I love you, Donald. I would love to be able to shake your hand.
Here to see Trump. He's coming to the Bronx. I had to come. He's the greatest president in my lifetime.
I think everybody's going red.
We've wanted for a long time somebody that's warrior enough to go to South Bronx.
Donald Trump coming out here and showing that he cares about the community and he wants his message to be heard, because we've been dealt a terrible hand of cards by the Democratic Party for a very, very long time.
Minorities from the Bronx, all fed up and pissed off.
We're going to listen to the 45th President of the United States.
Well, hello, everybody. Thank you very much.
Well, hello, everybody.
Right here.
Right here.
I'm here tonight to declare that we are going to turn New York City around, and we are going to turn it around very, very quickly. We're going to bring safety back to our streets. We're going to bring success back to our schools. We're going to bring prosperity back to every neighborhood and every borough of the greatest city in our land. We're going to reduce taxes. We're going to bring businesses and big taxpayers back to New York. We're going to make New York bigger, better, and more beautiful than ever before. And that includes right here in the Bronx. And it's going to be done and funded starting on January 20th, directly from our great and beautiful White House.
That's a hell of an intro, huh?
That was tremendous. And I wish Steve Bannon and Jack Proso would hire you, man. You're tremendous. You are tremendous.
Nah, It was fun. It was a good experience. Shout out to my dude who made that happen. You know who you are out there.
Yes, I know.
But yeah, I mean the coalition that was built and the great American cities. And I use that phrase. I don't know if a lot of people were using it, but I've caught more people talking about the great American cities. And I'm like, wait a minute, I said that. Where did that come from? Who's been really coining the term and the urge to fix our great American cities? I love going to another great American city. I love traveling to places and seeing what everything is. That's the point of the video game. You walk around, you explore. You don't play a video game and stay in one spot. You go explore the world.
Our families just flew up to Frisco. We met in Frisco to see the Cleveland Indians defeat the Giants, and they just gotten that slugger from Boston. The place was packed out. I'd never been to the new Candlestick Park, McCovey's Cove, and it is. I love beautiful city.
Oh.
Seattle was a beautiful city, but Frisco especially, and I love Frisco. I love LA. I lived in Chicago for 6 years, 5.5 years. Love Chicago. My favorite city has always been Dallas, number 2, and New York City, number 1. Love my hometown of Pittsburgh, my birthplace of Cleveland. Yeah, I love these great cities. And it's been the liberal democratic machines that have gone in and gutted them. Look at Detroit. In 1953, Brian, your listeners and viewers may not be aware of this, was the wealthiest city in the world. 1953. In the world. And now it's in the top 10 most poorest cities of the United States. Thanks, Democrats. Thank you.
Yeah, I saw some company is built. I don't know if it's Amazon or Apple. They're opening up something in Detroit, maybe a factory or a plant or a. But Trump is getting all these companies to reinvest back into this country. He's negotiating for other countries to bring investment dollars. Open up here, bring a division of your thing here. Avoid the tariffs. Create American jobs for Americans. Sell your stuff directly here. Let's make this. He's doing what everybody should have always been doing. And now, because they've totally botched this Epstein rollout, like you said, no president's perfect, but you got to admit, Bruce, the Epstein rollout has been a complete disaster. My show this morning was calling to account Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. Nobody's given her the criticism that she's deserved. I've heaped praise upon her for being so organized to roll out the agenda, and in the past 6 months be the most productive administration in the first 6 months we've ever seen. Nothing even close, at least in our lifetimes.
No.
But Susie Wiles and this rollout of the Epstein thing, and even yesterday, I played a clip on the morning show today, the TNM Daily Show. And Trump said, the Epstein thing is a hoax. It's a hoax. I go, what's a hoax? He's not elaborating. He's not explaining what about it is a hoax. He's in it and they framed him. There's videos, but it's not him. They said he knew him in ways that he didn't. They said they were, the Epstein thing is not a hoax. But to what degree do we know what we know? That's what, when we say we want the Epstein list, tell us the bullet points, the too long didn't read version, TLDR. Don't write me a 500-page, break it down. Bullet points, brass tacks. Was it a honeypot for Israel and Mossad? Who got ensnared besides Bill Clinton? What dirt did they have on him? And the whole Epstein thing for me is a circle. It's a dartboard. There's outer ring and middle ring stuff. Yes, Bobby Kennedy flew on the plane. Donald Trump flew on the Epstein jet. Didn't go to the island. Nobody's ever accused him of that. Never been accused of going in. Okay, fine. Middle ring stuff. They were at events together. Trump has pictures talking to Epstein, yucking it up with him. Doesn't look good in hindsight. By the way, is there any human being that's taken more pictures with human beings than Donald Trump? So, okay, fine. He ran in the same circles. Fine. We want the inner ring and the bullseye stuff. We want the evil stuff exposed. And I don't care what banks crumble. I don't care what nations crumble. I don't care who goes down, what royal family, what sect of this, I don't care about it. Burn it down. If you're running this globe based on child abuse and blackmail, It needs to burn. So let me just give you the Epstein case and ask, what do you think we know about it, and why has the rollout of holding up the Epstein files, it's a 3-ring binder from Pam Bondi with nothing new in it, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino come out and say, oh, no, trust me, he totally offed himself. You're like, huh? Yeah, remember those cameras weren't working? Here, let us show you them. By the way, there's a minute missing. By the way, that minute's always missing. By the way, no, that's not correct. By the way, the whole Epstein thing, it's a hoax. It's fake news, and it's not fake news. So what do you make of all of this?
By the way, your impersonations are getting very good, especially Obama's. Let's go in reverse. Let's go back to the future. First of all, Epstein was either murdered, in other words, he was whacked or assassinated in his cell. My wife, Cassandra, thinks that he's still alive and he was whisked away, which is highly possible, either by our CIA or the Mossad. But he was not killed via suicide, and I can prove it. Michael Francis wrote the best-selling book, Quitting the Mob, and several other books. He's now an evangelical evangelist. He was the understudy for John Gotti, and he was the head of the Gambino crime family after Carlo kicked off. And he was he lived in that cell. He was in that cell block, the very same block that Epstein was in, for 7.5 months, give or take a week or two. He said there is nothing dangling or hanging from the ceiling where he would have been able to hang himself, even if he had a step ladder or an extension ladder. There were no light bulbs hanging. There were no wires. There was no electricity, nothing. And he said the ceiling was way, way up, not your typical jail cell. He said, quote, I'm quoting here. Here's what he said. He said, there is no way that Epstein died by suicide, end quote. There is nothing for him to hang himself with, and even the furniture could not have been used to hang yourself, even if they were midgets, quote unquote. So he's alive or he's dead, but if he is dead, they got to him. The other thing,
they said this was the cell where they had like paper bed sheets. It was the suicide cell.
It was.
You had one job, the highest profile dipshit on earth. One job, keep him alive.
Well,
you had one job, just keep him alive, and they didn't do that. So they either intentionally allowed him to do it to himself, which is highly unbelievable. And now what? Bongino and Patel can be untrusted. They're not trustworthy. We throw the baby out with the bathwater on that. So he either did it to himself, which he could not have done it, or they opened up the gates. Somebody came in and ended him real quick. Then they closed the gates and turned the camera back on, and all was right in the world. Or they escorted him out to go kick it with Biggie and Biggie Smalls and Tupac Shakur, and maybe John McAfee on a desert island somewhere. Maybe they shuttled him out of there. Who knows? But yeah, those are the options. Either way, unless we're playing 8-dimensional chess here and Epstein's going to turn evidence on everybody, they let it happen. And that was under Donald Trump's watch. That was under Bill Barr.
Or he could have been a patsy like Oswald. Oswald was going to spill the beans, and then Ruby was going to spill the beans, and they whacked him with cancer injection cells. By the way, Michael said one other thing. Michael Francine, who again was the capo or the captain of the Gotti clan. He said, I was a nobody. I was not even John Gotti. I was a nobody. And there were 2 guards walking in front of my cell day and night. He said, Epstein was the biggest criminal since Charles Manson. And you're going to let him be by himself for 5 hours? No way. No way, Jose.
And that's why we're furious. That's why we're pissed, because when you know that kids are getting hurt and that there's people that feast on this like vampires, like think Joe Biden just sniffing on, creeping and touching
his legs in the swimming pool. Yeah. Stinking pervert.
The kids used to come by and they like to brush. Come on, You know the thing.
The thing.
Come on, man. I had hairy legs.
He was trying to quote the
kids would touch the legs. You know the thing.
You're including this in your stand-up stuff because that's great stuff, man.
There have been occasions where I've done some political voices on stage. Yes.
Is that President Kennedy's mother, or was that Bobby?
Of course, it's Bobby Kennedy, and some people wonder what am I doing on a comedy stage? But you know, I like to tell those people you can't spell Maha without ha, ha ha ha.
Rich Little and Dana Carvey, move over. Frank Cataloni, whatever his name is, move over, man. You're good. You're still not as good as that kid from New York, though. He even fools Trump.
Tyler Fisher.
No, keep going.
No, Tyler Fisher's the best.
No, Tyler's very, very good. No, this guy's so good, he fools Trump's family and Trump himself.
Yeah, there's like 10 great Trumps.
But no, this guy is I can't think of his name, but anyway, he's on Newsmax and RAV all the time. Real America's Voice.
It doesn't matter, Bruce. It's okay. We're going to work to send you some memory supplements made from scorpion semen that might be able to help some of that short-term memory loss of yours.
Hey, like I said, the true Democrats that I grew up with, JFK, Hubert Humphrey, Scoop Jackson, Zell Miller, they're all coming over our way. Tulsi Gabbard, Bobby Kennedy. You know, the party of the Democrats today, they don't even shy away from saying that they're communists. I mean, Brennan is a card-carrying member of the Communist Party.
Their masks are off. Their masks are off.
Their masks are off, and they don't even deny it anymore. You know, Anita Dunn, the communications director for Obama, her hero was Mao Zedong, who killed millions, tens of millions of his own Chinese people during the Cultural Revolution. So they even admit they're communists or socialists, and you know,
or Marxists or globalists or Leninists or Stalinists. I mean, it's like mixed together the worst of the worst. That's what they you know.
Jim Mars and I were doing research before he passed away that while Bill was an old-fashioned patronizing Southern Democrat, licked his finger to see where the wind was blowing, but he was on some issues a moderate, and in his own twisted way, he loved America. But we were doing research that Hillary was actually a member of the fascist party. We had photographs of her attending many Nazi meetings. So Putin is not a commie; he's a nationalist. Hillary was not a left-wing Democrat; she was a Nazi that she accuses everybody else of being. And Bill was just a henpecked opportunist.
Well, we'll see. That they keep claiming that more info is coming out on Epstein. But what's your take on the whole rollout of this? Like,
okay, thank you. I didn't get.
It's the weakest point of the Trump administration by far.
Yeah, it is, and I'll explain that in a minute. I wanted to clarify that he was definitely murdered. Okay, not suicide, or as my wife says, maybe. Okay, so but here's the deal. Number one, they oversold it all through the campaign. We're going to release all the JFK files and we're going to release all the Epstein files. They oversold it. Then Pam Bondi panicked at these press conferences in the Oval Office, and she started to say it. And remember, he cut her off twice. She started saying something, and President Trump interrupted her twice, and that's when he did the hoax imitation that you did so well. And so, number one, they oversold it. They never should have said boo about it. Number two, according to Alan Dershowitz, there's another Democrat that's coming our way, the most legendary professor in the history of Harvard Law School. He saw the original list. Why?
Well, he was
representing Epstein.
Yeah, he was his attorney.
Until Epstein fired him. But he said, I saw the original list and President Trump's name was not on it.
So do we trust Dershowitz, who was he was fingered? He was accused by Virginia Giuffre. Who
totally exonerated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
there's several you need to watch. There's a couple documentaries out, one on Newsmax, one on RAV. You need to watch them. He's totally exonerated.
Yeah, falsely accused, and that's
falsely accused.
Yeah. That is the honest truth of Trump saying, "I can't release the list. They said, sir, just release the list. I said, these morons in the Democrat Party, the same ones who have been pushing Russia hoax nonstop, those people had this list and rigged it. The whole thing is rigged. It's fake news, everybody. Fake news.
Faresh, you're now number 2 to Faresh. You're better than Taylor. Faresh,
I do growly Trump, but I need to like settle into like talking Trump. I still haven't figured out talking Trump. I do the sniffle. You gotta every now and then big sniffs.
Let me give you a little hint, a little clue, a little pointer. I used to do imitations and impersonations on Chicago radio. I didn't study the speaker. I studied other impersonators, like Rich Little.
Oh, I do that.
And David Fry at the time, you know. And, you know,
1,000 points of light. Dana Carvey doing George Bush. I don't even know what George Bush ever.
Mr. Bush, you're going to go over there. Ain't going to do it. Wouldn't be prudent.
Now, hold on. Now, wait a minute. You hear that giant sucking sound? That's all the jobs going from NAFTA out of. Hold on. Can I finish? Now I'm just doing Dana Carvey doing. Ross Perot.
Yeah. That's what you do. You study the great impersonators. You know, Frank Gore. In my day, it was Frank Gorshin and especially David Fry and Rich Little. Your dad loved David Fry. I loved Rich Little, but they were both great. Did great Nixons. Oh my goodness.
I also do a Mitch McConnell.
Well, I want to hear the turtle. Go ahead.
No, I don't Mitch McConnell. I remember what I was saying, but that's preposterous.
If anybody wants to send $5 to Curtis Lewa, and hopefully the 3 liberals will split the vote, or $2 to the guy running against Mitch McConnell's proteges in Kentucky. Have you been following that race?
Little bit. I almost went to a Charlie Kirk event. My buddy invited. I had something else going on.
I was going to ask you, why hasn't Charlie asked you to speak at some of these events, man?
Really? You saw the intro to the show, right? Was that? Did I have that intro last time you were on the show?
No, that's a new one. No, you did not.
Did any of those faces surprise you? The people we've had conversations with in the past?
I knew about half of them, and the other half that I've watched on the news for the last, 10 years, 12, 15 years. I was impressed. That was quite a resume. That was quite a layout, quite a run of celebrities and VIPs and big time politicians.
I'm going to try to put one more together in like maybe double or maybe 2.5x the number of images and people and moments. And there's I've done 1,400 videos. I'm sorry. In 14 years, I've done 2,000 videos.
Have you really? Wow.
14 years, 2,000. So yeah, one of these days I intend to wake up and be an overnight success story and team up with somebody.
Well, I thought John B. Wells was going to make you a part of his show. What's going on with John B?
We had a great chat, and it's pinned to our X feed. Here, let me tell everybody where to find.
He hasn't had me on. He said, "Oh, I'm going to have you back every November." I haven't been on since.
Well, let me reach out about that. Scrolling at the bottom of the screen there, if you are taking a look, the New American Media exists on Instagram, Facebook, Truth Social, Rumble, Odysee, Twitch, Kick, DLive, and YouTube. Search the New American Media. Hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. We're on Telegram and Signal at TNAM and TNAM Chat. We're on X at American_Media_. And our podcast can be found on Spotify and Apple under the Agree to Disagree Show. Please link up with us there. Also, if anybody wants to support us, like I said, pinned to the top here, let me show you. I'll go to our homepage and just point out the easiest way to find out how to help the New American Media. We're right here. The very first thing is our interview with John B. Wells. It's our Patreon account right here. You click it. It's Patreon. You can sign up. What will it take you to? What does it show you? Oh, I guess it's a new tab. Look at me. I was wearing a suit jacket for that interview.
He loves you. I love John B. Wells. He loves you, man.
Yeah, I mean, John, but on this Patreon is what I was saying is that you can sign up. Who's that guy? That guy looks like me.
A little bit. He even sounds like you a little bit.
He's a little better dressed, I think. A little better dressed. But yeah, you can sign up on Patreon. It's like $5 a creation, or $15 a month, or $100 a month, or $1,000 a month. Hey, you know, it doesn't take a lot to fully fund the operations of the New American Media each month, a few $1,000 bucks. But you know, the people who support us, we appreciate everyone who has, and encourage more of you to sign up and support us. But that's the easiest way, is to go and find us on our X feed. It's pinned right there to the very top of our X feed, and our 9,351 followers on that account. Also, our tip jar, scrolling at the bottom of the screen, is Venmo and Cash App. It's just my name, Brian Engelman, BrianEngelman. And our PayPal link, enter the email address fuzzinstallment@yahoo.com. That's fuzzinstallment@yahoo.com. So that's all scrolling at the bottom of your screen. Go ahead and click on one of those and join up with us if you're feeling feisty on that front. Thanks for the reminder there. So, yes, we are in all those places. I talked to Charlie Kirk briefly in that intro. Don't know him very well. Yes, I was on Real America's Voice. I did my interview with Jack Posobiec. It was great. I'm open to working with a whole bunch of places, and I'll probably be. Well, we'll see how things shake out. What do you make of things, Bruce? From a I also want to get your final wrap up thoughts on Epstein, because there's so many angles to get to. But what do you make of biblically and from a spiritual perspective, when you've been? What did Marge Simpson say to Homer? Or Homer said to Marge, this is just like when God teased Moses in the desert. No, Homer, God tempted Moses in the day. He didn't tease him. But, you know, it's sort of the same. What do you do when you're toiling in the desert for 14 years, creating content, 2,000 videos? YouTube steals your monetization. You can't really break through. The videos aren't getting the views that you would, hope for. You'd want to be 10x, 100x, 1,000x, 10,000x. Howard Stern, they're not going to renew his contract. It's like, pull in numbers of his in his heyday, or Rush Limbaugh. We all have a dream that when we do our show, we have our regulars commenting, and they're awesome people, but we'd love 1 million of them per episode. What do you do when you're toiling in the desert and you feel like, I don't know, am I on the right path? Am I doing the right thing? Is this ever going to turn into the full-time career that I wish it would? Although, wishing isn't going to make it so. But I've just figured there's no point trying to team up with another company, because most of them are just lying legacy media, and they'd hate somebody like me to begin with. So I haven't really ever put much energy into trying to go work with anybody else. Although maybe of late, I've been reaching out to a few, like, hey, I do documentaries, I do Man on the Street, I'm in person at I do convention coverage, I do. I go to breaking news events. I run this show. I'm an innings eater in baseball. I mean, you need 4 innings. You had a starting pitcher go out with an injury quick. Yeah, I can give you 6 innings easy. I do 4-hour shows like that. So there's nothing I can't do in this damned industry, but nothing has quite hit to the level where I'm fully funded on my finances each month with a little extra to spare for a rainy day fund. That's all we're asking, is just reach that level. But what do you do on a spiritual level when it feels like God's just teasing you while you're wandering out there in the desert?
Well, Homer's wife was right. It's not a teasing or a tantalizing, it's a testing. And what you do is you keep going on.
Yes.
Keep on keeping on. One thing that you and my 2 boys teach these football players on both the high school and college and professional levels: never quit. That was Winston Churchill's second favorite saying. Never quit, never give up. His first was, of course, carry on and be calm, or be calm and carry on. But so you keep going. Moses was on the backside of the desert for 40 years. Hello. So you just keep doing what you're doing. And then you pray and ask God to give you that break. When I broke in with ABC, it was a God thing. And you got to be in the right place at the right time. I went from PBS to ABC. Then a talent scout came and got me CBS, WBNS in Columbus, and you got to sell yourself. Mark Klinger, one of my broadcast journalism professors at Westminster College, said, Bruce, I said, do you think, I took him my new resume. I said, Mark, do you think I'm bragging a little too much on myself? He said, Bruce, in this business, if you don't toot your own horn, nobody else is going to. And you just got to keep selling yourself and sending out demo tapes. Don't give up. I'm going to tell you, I was going to tell you this anyway. And of course, I'm prejudiced because you're my nephew and my godson, and also a very close friend. But I watch all these other shows. I watch them all on Fox, and Fox is so compromised now, most of it, not all of it. Fox, I watch the shows on Newsmax. I watch all the shows on RAV, including Live at Studio B. Those guys do a good job. But I'm going to be honest with you. Your program is much, much better in its worst form. And I've not seen a worse form, but for lack of contrast, or for the purpose of contrasting. Your show is much more professional, better produced, and more interesting than a lot of these guys on the air. There's 3 guys on the radio that would come close to you. Have you caught them? I recommended them a while back, and they move around. One's a former disc jockey, one's a former sports guy, and one's a former newscaster. I can't even think of their names, but they're on all the Dallas stations, and they're syndicated. They're entertaining, and they're good, and they're different ages. One guy's like 60, aren't my age. The other guy's post-millennial, and the other guy's Generation Z. So they get all, but they're funny. They're ultra-conservative. They love Trump. But other than those 3 dudes, for the life of me, I can't think of their names. They'll come to me. Scott's one of them. And you got it, man. You got it. You just got to keep waiting for that big break. And I thought John B. was going to do it for you. But don't wait around for one person, man. And don't wait around for RAV. And I would keep bombarding RAV, man, until they slam the door in your face and tell you quit pestering us.
Yeah, I got a laundry list of places. I would fit in doing sports shows. I would fit in I do all of this stuff. When I did the game show, the casting director was like, "Have you ever considered being a game show host?"
Oh, you would be fabulous.
We were practicing it.
Jen, don't call me Jen. Whatever you do.
Jen, Jenny, Jennifer. If you know, you know.
I've told that story all over America 1,000 times.
Yeah, I've been trying to work it into my stand-up routine. I got to condense it. I got to tighten it. I got to find a couple more punches, a couple more punchlines, telling the story. 4 minutes goes quick when you're on a stage, and you can't lose them, and it's easy to lose them, and you're just trying to get through a story. But yeah, I just I've in the past 14 years, I've taken full-time jobs, and I've pushed this thing back to the side burner, and I kept all the Facebook groups and all the Instagram postings and Twitter X and, occasional YouTube. I never stopped, but what I've been doing now in the past 6 months has been a daily show. That's something I've never done. And I've just been crushing it. I've been crushing the shows, and we're having a fun time. Like the people in the comments, David and Unholy and American Made and everybody else in here. Yeah, I mean, we meet at noon every day and we talk. It's just, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. And, at some point, you got to weigh the cost benefit analysis of how many hours am I dedicating versus how many thousands do I need to just cover the bills each month? And it's shit, I don't want to get another job again. But I've been fortunate, I've been blessed, and I've been able to pour myself into TNAM for the past 2 years because of some of those blessings. But, now it's time to back to reality, and it's one final lap around the track to see if there's any takers.
Not the swan song, but just one final lap. I know you might want to look for investors, and I know somebody, a retired, very wealthy businessman, who lives in Brunswick Hills, Ohio, that maybe if he invested 5 or 10 grand in your program.
Yeah, he's not in Brunswick Hills anymore, Brunswick proper. But I take your point. But no, I just wonder, if something was going to happen, why didn't it happen by now? And yes, I did have meetings with BBC, multiple meetings with BBC to do a television show with them. I've I've been, like I've done things. I've almost done things. I've created things out of nothing. I've seized opportunities, created opportunities, fumbled opportunity. Like, it's just that's life, You go up to swing, you make some good contact, you make some bad contact, and you miss.
President Trump said today, and this pertains to everything you've said about yourself, but in a bad way, good way about you. President Trump said today, he was asked at a news conference when he appointed the new governor, Moran, for the Fed, which was a great move, by the way. One of the reporters said, "What do you think about Howard Stern leaving?" He goes, "Howard Stern, I haven't heard of him in years. We used to be friends. Is he still around?" And he goes, "I'll tell you where he went wrong. It was when he endorsed Hillary." And then he goes, "By the way," he goes, "Colbert, no talent at all. He bit the dust." And Kimmel and the other guy are going to be next, Jimmy Fallon. Honestly, I watched Johnny Carson, I'm ashamed to admit, almost every night for 20 years. And then Tom Snyder.
Why ashamed? I
should have been in my Bible, studying the Word of God instead of watching Johnny for an hour and a half. He used to be on an hour and a half. But
hey, watching those shows will create and help you develop a sense of humor.
Yeah,
and that you're going to be able to evangelize the gospel better if you come across as likable. So no, don't beat yourself up. You need.
Well, thank you. Well, in fact, I was asked to candidate at the First Baptist.
In fact, Jesus Christ put that show in front of you specifically to help work on your
preach it,
your lackluster persona.
Hallelujah,
to level
brother.
You up and bring some humor.
Sound doctrine. Keep preaching. But Carson was okay. Red Skelton. I spent a whole day with Red Skelton, the old actor and comedian. He told me that Carson was the greatest comedian that ever lived and the greatest American wit since Will Rogers. He had talent. He was a former magician like myself. The talent just oozed out of Carson. Tom Snyder was brilliant. He was an anchorman turned talk shows. Honestly, these guys, Fallon's not too bad, but Colbert and Kimmel have, Trump's right, zero talent. You got 100 times more talent than these idiots on TV.
Well, Jimmy Kimmel used to be funny when he was doing stuff with Adam.
I never thought he was funny.
He had moments, but he has the worst Trump derangement syndrome out there.
Oh, he does. Yeah,
it's he does. I remember a year or two ago I was in Austin, and it was a long day out or whatever, and got to a hotel and sat down and turned the TV on, and it just happened to be on that channel. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Kimmel! I went to a live taping of Jimmy Kimmel.
Did you?
To go see 30 Seconds to Mars perform right up on the Hollywood Boulevard, and it was the most unwatchable piece of trash. It was just like bitter, mean, vindictive, mean-spirited, unfunny, anti-Trump drivel. It was as if the deep state wrote a script for a clown to come out and perform. Like whatever they did, Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert to I mean, I guess they just sold their soul for $10 million a year or 20, whatever they were making, I guess. But like, they are a shell of what they used to be. I thought both of them used to be funny. I thought Colbert was hilarious on when he was playing like the Bill O'Reilly character on the Colbert Report. That was funny. He was, it was almost like how Meathead wrote the Archie Bunker character thinking everybody would hate him because he's so out there and he's so racist. But then you're like, hold on, listen to what he's saying. Like the writer's room, people loved Archie. And yeah, Archie's rough around the edges. And yeah, he does a few cringeworthy things. And oh God, Archie, no. But for the most part, he was like the thing. So they were trying to make fun of Bill O'Reilly so much, but that character was likable because the concept is likable, to just be a normal, funny person, not a wacky, angry lefty.
Yeah. Well, Bill O'Reilly is another subject for another day. I love Bill O'Reilly. I like his intellect. He is a liberal. He's not a ultra conservative, but he's a good liberal. He's an old timey liberal, and he's balanced. He said that Oswald shot Kennedy. That's the only problem I have with Bill. But getting back to these other guys.
Well, he had to write the book. Killing Kennedy, killing this, killing that,
Well,
killing time.
He could have told the truth in it, though. Yeah, he's a good writer. He has ghostwriters, but
look, I interviewed Larry Elder. He thinks weapons of mass destruction were there and that they gave them way too much time and they shuttled them across the border.
He's right.
That is his opinion. He's sticking with it.
He's right.
Your opinion is agreeing with that as well.
He's right.
By the way, Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, is coming out. I believe she was calling out, sorry if I get this, or Comey, Clapper, Brennan, Clapper. I think she said it was Clapper who rolled out the fake WMD story to get us involved in that second Gulf War.
I'm not surprised. But Sadat, Anwar Sadat, wasn't that his name? No.
Saddam Hussein.
Saddam Hussein. He did have weapons of mass destruction. Where he moved them and when he moved them, we don't know.
Or he was bluffing, and that's a bad thing to bluff about.
Well, he was gassing his own curd, so he had something going on. But the point is this, Johnny Carson was an ultra liberal, but we never knew it. He disguised it. He was fair and balanced. He was an entertainer first. And the same thing with Tom Snyder. We didn't really. And take Wallace. Take Wallace, unlike his twerp son, one of the greatest interviewers of all time, and very fair. He vindicated the Atlanta bomber, that security guard, because Mike Wallace from 60 Minutes, great journalist. Now, he was a liberal Democrat, but he didn't show it. By the way, your American-made Jimmy Carter was so soft. Oh, was he? Thank you very much. This is Walter Cronkite, CBS Nightly News, talking with former President, Mr. Jimmy Carter. Mr. Carter, would you like to say a few words, please? Thank you very much, Walter. I'd just like to say a few words. Peace, politics, and peanuts. Thank you very much. I had to do one.
That was all right. What did you say?
I'm rusty. I'm rusty.
What'd you say? It was peace and peanuts?
Peace, politics, and peanuts. Thank you very much.
Let me play you this little clip from Johnny Carson that sums up exactly what you're starting to get at.
People say he'll never take a serious controversy. Well, I have an answer to that. I said, now, tell me the last time that Jack Benny, Red Skelton, any comedian, used his show to do serious issues. That's not what I'm there for. Can't they see that? But you're not. Why do they think that just because you have a Tonight Show that you must deal in serious issues? It's a danger. It's a real danger. Once you start that, you start to get that self-important feeling that what you say has great import. And strangely enough, you could use that show as a forum. You could sway people, and I don't think you should as an entertainer.
Johnny said that was the hardest interview he ever did. He said his rear end was killing him. And he said he was terrified of Mike Wallace. He said it was the worst experience of his life. But he did say Mike did a very good and fair job. And the truth is that back in mid-'60s, when he took over for Jack Parr, who was the second host after Steve Allen, he did those controversial shows, and they backfired in his face. He did one on the Kennedy assassination with one of my heroes, the former DA of New Orleans Parish, Jim Garrison, who opened the case. And Johnny was smart enough to realize he was a comedian, a magician, and a showman, and a great comedian. And boy, what a great answer, and two of the giants, one in journalism, one in talk TV, chat, as they say in England, chat shows. Yeah, that's a great piece. That's a great piece. I just watched that recently.
But Mike Wallace is a no-talent son, Chris. Rolled out the Russia. What did he roll out? No, he said the fine people hoax. Can you believe it? They said he's actually from Fox. This guy works at Fox. He wants to say that I called neo-Nazis fine people. That's a hoax. Never happened. Sleepy Joe in on this. The people at Fox trying to kneecap me.
I got a question for you, Mr. President.
Fire away. Unless you're in Butler, then miss.
Yeah, don't fire away in Butler. Oh, my goodness. 60 people. There's a man up there, Secret Service agent with the rifle, pointing it at the president.
TikTok.
Yeah, and the cops are in the building underneath them. Anyway, I mean, that was a setup deal. That was Comey trying to take him out, and that assistant Secret Service director, that weirdo. But I was going to ask you, why have we not heard? And I love Tom Hanks. I don't know him personally. I think he's one of the greatest actors of our time. When those Epstein files were still talked about, or initially talked about, I should say, we heard about four people: the Prince of England, Prince of the UK,
Prince Andrew,
with
his picture hanging out with Virginia Guffrey,
Bill Richardson, the former Secretary of Energy under Clinton.
Is Bill Richardson the one that had the gold bars in his walls?
I don't know, but he was governor of New Mexico for a while. And Tom Hanks. We don't hear Tom Hanks' name come up anymore.
He's about as weird as they come, though.
Is he?
I mean, like, as far as the things and the ways that they're linked together, potentially, allegedly, I don't know for certain any of that, but yeah, he's of course, and we just want the truth. What do you think the Epstein thing is? Do you think it's just some guy and they've blown all this stuff out of proportion, or was he working for Israel? Was he his dad and Mossad and Ghislaine's father and that whole connection with the creation of Israel? Because, by the way, our intelligence agencies were pretty much birthed right around 1947, 48, weren't they?
They were.
Is that?
They were. And prior to that, it was just military intelligence, ONI, Office of Naval Intelligence, and then the Bull. They called him the Bull. And we're finding out he had some nefarious ties to the founder, the guy who's credited with founding the CIA. Yeah, her dad was a very mysterious character. He was Czechoslovakian. His parents, I guess, were in a concentration camp. And they say
pause on concentration camp. The CIA was established in 47.
Yes.
Same exact year as Israel, under the National Security Act signed by Harry Truman. While no single individual founded the CIA, its creation was driven by key figures and events following World War II. The Office of Strategic Services, OSS, led by William Donovan during the war, served as a precursor, with Donovan advocating for a centralized intelligence agency. Truman and his administration, including advisors like Rear Admiral Sidney Sewers, first director of Central Intelligence, were instrumental in formation to coordinate U.S. intelligence efforts during the early Cold War. Okay.
Yeah.
Back to your point.
I think it was Donovan that had that nickname. Yes, sir. And recently we found out he had some nefarious ties. But the Israeli government, and you mentioned that he had a state funeral in Israel, but he was a double-header spy. He might have been a triple-header spy. He was Slovak. He was He was a Czech. He had, Jewish heritage, Jewish blood. He was working for, apparently, the KGB, MI6 in England, or out of Great Britain, and the Mossad. But they do say this: without his participation, Israel would not have become a state. And Harry Truman, who was a strong evangelical, even fundamentalist Christian, he stood for Israel when everybody jumped off that ship. So I think Truman, one of our more honest presidents, I think he was. They also tried to kill him, by the way. They I told John B. Wells on his program, they only shoot the good presidents and the honest ones. But because of his knowledge of the Bible, he felt that Israel had to become a nation again before Jesus could return. So we don't know who Robert Maxwell is. He had a very mysterious demise. He fell off his yacht. His family said it was a murder. The coroner said it was suicide, that he had a heart attack, or he fell off accidentally. It was either accidental or suicide. And but he wound up being Rupert Murdoch's #1 competitor as a media mogul in the UK. And then all of a sudden he winds up $6 billion in debt. Very, very mysterious. Very mysterious. That was just Dane, whatever her name is, her daddy. So very interesting. Very mysterious.
So what would you guess is going on with Ghislaine getting transferred to a minimum security prison? She was given a box of things. Maybe it's some sort of materials to look through and determine whatever. What do you make of Ghislaine Maxwell allegedly child trafficking children to nobody, since nobody's been held accountable? I mean, there's a lot of bad narratives that are just indefensible going on right now with this story. It's like the one big screeching, bright, flashing lights. And my take on this, and I'll give you that question before you get going. We either have to trust that more is on the way, and we're going to get actual information because President Trump has made it sound like that we will release. What's the phrase he uses? Like actual information. It seems like they set him up in the files, like I don't know. What is your? I thought I was going to finish that point, but I'm just going to peel off from it. What do you think is going on with Ghislaine? Do you think she's going to testify? Do you think you can believe anything that she says?
I hate to say this, but I think they're going to try and whack her too. The deal is this, Brian. Always remember this. There are files. You and I have not seen the files. Alan Dershowitz, a liberal Democrat, has. It says Trump's name originally was not in it. Trump says, yeah, I flew to the island a couple times, and he started coming to Maui.
He didn't say that he went to the island. He said that he was on it's a charter plane. It's like a bus.
Yeah.
And when you're not using it, you have like a 24-hour window of like, yeah, you can take it, but it has to be back by 7:00 tomorrow because we're going to take it to Vegas or we're going to go to Italy. So he said that he was on the plane, and Bobby Kennedy said he was on. I did go from Florida with my wife Cheryl and the kids, but nobody else was on the plane. And I went up to the Cape, wherever the Kennebunk, wherever my whole family up there in the Northeast. And then we flew back, and I didn't go to the island, and Cheryl wouldn't have, Cheryl and the kids. But I did once or twice go on Jeffrey Epstein's plane.
Well,
there's no good way to say that. There's no good way to be like,
all I can say, and I love the Kennedy family. Look at my museum back here, my shrine to John F. Kennedy, and a little bit Reagan and Trump. Okay, I love the Kennedys. But when Teddy and his nephew Smith were frolicking with a woman at 2:00 in the morning on the beach, and she cried rape, I'm going, really? You're running with the Kennedys on a beach in the nude at 2 a.m, and you have the audacity to accuse them of rape? What were you doing with the Kennedy? I think Bobby, one of the more honest Kennedys. John was very moral, I believe. But come on, the one nice thing about the Kennedys, they kind of, unlike Bill Clinton, kind of kept sex separated from their political careers. With that said, I think the Democrats have their issue. They have no agenda. They have no new ideas. Abortion on demand, open borders, support China, and radical transvestite rights. That's about it. So Trump is just rolling victory after victory after victory after victory. I think it's like a moral Watergate. I don't think it's any big deal as far as President Trump is concerned, other than the disclosure aspect. They oversold it. They overreacted when questioned about it. And really, Pam Bondi's... I'm upset with Pam Bondi, not over that. Why are we not watching these guys, Clapper and Brennan, in orange jumpsuits, in perp walks? But see, the Democrats are going to use this thing, the Epstein files, as a way to get to Trump. That's all they got. And
they don't even have that.
Orange man bad, he's Hitler. Other than that, that's all they got.
David Bann, he's my spirit animal up in Ontario, and he says it's time for some action.
I see that, David. Way to go. I see it's time for some action. I want
every day. When are the arrests, Bruce? I think so. So you don't think it was a blackmail ring? It wasn't a bribery ring that they didn't give people on.
I think it very well could have been a bribery ring on Epstein's part. Absolutely. And if he had ties to Mossad, and we don't know that yet, or the CIA.
We sort of know that, don't we? We
kind of know that.
We're pretty close to sort of.
We know he had ties to the CIA and against the liberal Republican Party, that DA down in Florida that let him off with a slap on the wrist. You know, all of a sudden they want to protect children because of the Epstein files. What about Elian Gonzalez? You shipped him back to the butcher Castro. You old timers remember that. How about how many missing kids? They don't care about those 100,000 missing children, but boy, they care about, all of a sudden the Democrats care about the Epstein victims.
Well, I mean, what do you think the chances are that this was a clever ruse to fake a fight? Because Elon was too wrapped up in Doge and Trump. They needed to blow apart.
Yeah.
And they blew apart. And then, oh, by the way, on your way out, go on an X tirade about like, yeah, because you're on Epstein Island list. And then let everyone freak out for like a month, and they'll go, oh, he knows some stuff. Oh, Trump's busted. We must have the list. Give us the list. Give us the list. Give us list. Give us list. And they're just laughing, going, I think we're going to get away with it. That's my Elon. I just did a little laugh. But what do you think the chances are that was all just a clever ruse to separate them so he could go back to running Doge, and it could trick the media and trick the left into demanding the thing that's going to bury the Clintons? It's going to absolutely decimate Hollywood. It's going to go into sports. It's going to go into journal. It's going to go everywhere. What do you think the chances are that was the plan, to look clueless and flustered and confused? I don't know that I'm buying it, because I feel like they genuinely don't seem to understand the right messaging on the story.
They got
convoluted.
Yeah. I hope that's the case, and never underestimate Donald Trump's bargaining power and his intellect to do
strategy.
Stuff like that. His strategies and tactics. Yeah. But I don't think that's it. I think they got caught with their proverbial pantalones down. And again, they oversold it. And then they got caught with their pants down. And now the Democrats, it's all they got. The only issue they have.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have one clear front runner. It looks like they should lose the midterms by a landslide unless there's a lot of cheating, and like they do in Arizona and Illinois, California. But I think that, yes, it could be a ruse. Or it could be a blackmail thing on the other side. We don't know. We don't know. We may never know. One other thing, I want to say one other thing, Brian. President Trump has brought up the possibility, and this is very possible, that either Biden and his senile Biden, probably his minions, and or the CIA, and or the FBI, under Clapper and these idiots, Brennan the communist, they could have added Trump's name to that list.
Yeah, that's what it's like. They looked at it and went, oh shit, I can't tell. Wait a minute. Wait, but it's all fake. It's fake news. It's a hoax. But he's not telling us what the hoax is. They put my name in. I never went there. By the way, oh, speaking of I never went there, let me tell you what. Do you use Grok, by the way?
No, sir.
Do you know what Grok is?
No, sir.
Do you know what X is?
Yes, sir.
It's Twitter. So on Twitter, it's called Grok, and that's the artificial intelligence thing. You ask it questions.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it actually gives you pretty solid. Did Trump ever say he was on Epstein Island? No documented evidence he ever went to Little St. James in the Virgin Islands. Trump repeatedly and explicitly denied visiting the island. For example, a press conference, July of 25, he stated, I never had the privilege of going to his island, and I did turn it down, emphasizing that he declined an invitation to visit. He consistently maintained this position in multiple public statements, including interactions with reporters alongside UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, where he reiterated, I never went to the island. Flight logs from Epstein's private jet show that Trump flew with Epstein at least 7 times between 93 and 97. So that's not just taking the charter flight, that's flying with him, that's a lot of contact, primarily between Palm Beach, Florida, and New York, with one stop in D.C. However, these logs do not indicate any trips to Little St. James. Additionally, in a 2016 book written by Roger Stone, Trump is quoted as saying he turned down multiple invitations to Epstein's Island and his Palm Beach home. So there's that to clarify what we were talking about a moment ago.
Yeah, I was going to say a little bit ago when we were talking about Elon and doing your very good impersonation, he actually had much, much more contact over the years with Epstein than President Trump ever did.
Elon?
Oh, yes. Where there's I have a dozen photographs of him with Trump. There's dozens and dozens and dozens with Elon and Epstein. I'm not, just
and Ghislaine. Yeah, and that's the thing that Trump has said. He's like, I don't want just people, innocent people getting associated. They took a picture and they think he's a bad guy. I can't let that happen to everybody in this list. And it's like, I get it. Just guilt by association. But to me, like I said, let me show you the Unhappy Hour Sports Show coasters. Imagine they're circular. I do have circular ones over there. But the outer ring and middle ring, this is hard to do backwards. This is all stuff that isn't really getting into the worst of the worst. I want to know what's right in the middle of that bullseye, and right around the worst of the worst. What were people doing? What were people getting bribed? What were they getting blackmailed with? Or was none of this happening? The other claim was, there was no video recording equipment. No, they weren't filming what was going on in those rooms. You're like, that was always the story. We always knew that to be a fact. Now you're telling us not. Is that a Mandela effect? Are you gaslighting us? Like what? I'm having a hard time understanding what to believe on the Epstein story. I really am.
Well, let's dissect it for just a second. Do you have any problem believing that Bill Clinton liked younger women and younger girls? Okay. He seemed to have the majority of trips down there, more than Bill Richardson, the governor of New Mexico, more than Tom Hanks, more than Prince Andrew. So I think it's safe to assume that Bill was going down there for his jollies. Allegedly. Now, just because, like you said, and Trump's right, just because somebody went down there once or twice doesn't mean they were engaged in immoral activity. Although there is guilt by association. But in this country, unlike the Democrats, we still believe, as conservatives and constitutionalists, that you're innocent until proven guilty. We don't know what happened down there, thanks to those idiot Republicans that slapped Epstein on the wrist, and then whoever allowed him to be whacked or kidnapped out of his jail cell definitely did not commit suicide. Sanzone proved that. So,
but they said that he turned state's evidence. At least that was the quote. That Epstein belongs to intelligence. He is an intelligence asset. And they have Epstein going back to running guns for Iran-Contra in the 80s, allegedly. This is like a 50-year span of this Epstein guy. It's like...
Yeah. It's like Clay Shaw in the Kennedy murder. He ran Permindex, which was a major international corporation. He also ran the Chamber of Commerce and the Trade Center in New Orleans. But for 40 years, he was running the CIA. And was, I believe, one of the masterminds of the JFK assassination with all those other hoodlums and jerks, So that's the thing about the CIA. They have their front companies. They have their double and triple header spies. They're on 3 different payrolls, like Giselle's daddy apparently was. So it's a mystery wrapped in an enigma, as David Ferry said in the Kennedy assassination. But yeah, hey, the CIA, man, they're bad business. They'll whack you at the dry, and they never tell the truth because they're spies. They're like gypsies. They're taught not to tell the truth. The more lies you tell, the better CIA. What they asked the CIA agent last week on Steve Bannon, did you tell lies? Or maybe it was Charlie Kirk's show, and he said, that's not the worst of it. The CIA lies all the time, but worse than that, they lie to each other within the CIA. Recently, we lost one of the assassins. He passed away. He's one of the 3 hobos in Dallas. He said there were so many CIA hitmen and mafia hitmen and French Corsican hitmen in Dealey Plaza earlier that morning in Dallas. We were literally tripping over each other.
That's weird.
Yeah. That's your CIA, man. So it's a big question mark. But I don't think we should kick out the greatest president who's ever lived because of Watergate 2.
Well, I think people are concerned if Trump was actually more involved in it than they're letting on, but there's no evidence to prove that. But it sure seems like they were spooked by what they opened up the report. You know what? Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and President Trump, they all sort of looked as terrified and gobsmacked as Hillary and Bill and George W. Bush and Jeb Bush and Laura Bush when they opened up that paperwork at George H.W. Bush's funeral. You remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like they went white as a ghost and went, oh shit. I don't know what was in that. I don't know what they saw. But they went pale. They went, oh my, all of them. That's the same reaction I was feeling from Bondi, Bongino, Patel, Trump. Is that because I'm just, but I have to trust. I'm put in a horrible spot where I either have to trust that there's more coming with the Trump thing. They're figuring out what actual verifiable evidence they can unscramble from whatever it looks like they framed them with something. Or do I have to trust the Biden White House, the Biden Obama team that's been child trafficking hundreds of thousands of people? Do I need to trust the Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Dan Bongino that are actively shutting down abuse rings across the country? Or do I trust the person that's doing human trafficking? It's not even compatible. I have to go that side, not the other. But I don't like it. I want to verify. It's Reagan, trust but verify, right?
Right.
David Bann says year after year, week after week, we need to see some huge arrests. Yes, I agree with you completely. And by the way, the politician associated with gold bars is former U.S. Senator Bob Menendez from New Jersey. Bob Menendez from New Jersey.
Yes. Yeah, he was the gold bar.
I was conflating Bob Menendez with
Bill Richardson.
Bill Richardson, yes. So any final thoughts on the Epstein connection? I know we might have wanted to touch on the Fed in China, maybe UFOs, maybe looking back on Hiroshima. I don't know any other topics that you had in mind, sir, but
yeah,
put a fork in the Epstein thing for me. Sum it up, brass tacks. Like what key components and what do you expect?
From a biblical, let's wrap up Epstein, and then the last few minutes we'll talk about Hiroshima and UFOs. And maybe a little bit Ukraine. But basically, the Bible says, be sure your sin will find you out. I don't care if you're a Jew, a Gentile, a Catholic, a Protestant, a Baptist. And how one man's sin and crimes, i.e. Jeffrey Epstein, can ruin so many hundreds and hundreds, yea, thousands of lives. One man's sin, one man's immorality. So we need to make that point first. Number two, there is more to this story than meets the eye and the ear. And I'm glad you're on top of it. Personally, I'm not willing, and I don't think Trump violated any little girls down there like Epstein and some of his ilk and some of the frequent travelers down there. And I certainly hope not. I don't believe he did. And if he didn't, even if he did make a couple of trips down there, I don't think we should throw out the greatest president since George Washington, better than Reagan and Kennedy put together, and that's saying a lot, over this thing. That's the Dems, that's what they're rooting for. Number three, there were actually two mistakes. We talked about the one. They oversold it in the campaign. Even President Trump did. Pam Bondi did when she first got in there. The mistake number two was Bongino and Kash Patel. I would almost trust them with my life implicitly. I really would. You got to be careful. My attorney for many years did not trust Trump. My personal lawyer and my family attorney in Dallas. He did not trust Donald Trump. He thought he was part of the whole thing, that he was out there and he was part of the cabal. Okay. And finally I told him, I said, no, they wouldn't hate him this much if he was part of the big facade. And you know what? He came around after the Butler assassination and all the lawfare. One of the top attorneys in Dallas. Just a real nice guy, a good Christian fellow. And he said, you know, I'm beginning to trust Trump because they were going to throw him in jail forever if he didn't run again. And by the way, Brian, you were way ahead of that curve too. You said
what part?
About the Trump needed to run and should run and will run. When even a lot of MAGA people wrote him off, you know. But you can't lose all your trust in all of humanity. And I will trust Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and Pete Hegseth and even Pam Bondi.
Tulsi Gabbard.
And, Tulsi doubly implicitly. And even Bobby Kennedy. Any day over the least of the worst of the Biden and Obama administrations, because they're compulsive liars. They hate America. They're all communists, fascists, Nazis, or socialists, or ultra liberal Democrats that hate America. And so, my advice to you, nephew, is don't throw the baby out with the bathwater on this Epstein thing. Let's let the dust settle. Let's let Pam Bondi arrest those 5 idiots, 5 criminals that are communists for treason. And of course, the media's going to go, oh, the liberal legacy media, the drive-bys. Oh, they're just making these arrests out of vengeance and to get the mind off the Epstein files. Let them squawk all they want to. They arrested my president. You said that today when we did some prep work for the show. You know, they arrested our president. You know, is that your cat?
Yeah,
my
he's
cat
sitting right on the computer.
My cat just walked in front of me, but you didn't see him. Dixie just jumped up here and walked in front of me. That's hilarious. I wonder if they're cousins. She's gray.
This is
She's
Mr.
gray. That's why I
Nimbus.
call her Dixie. She's got a Confederate uniform on. Dixie, where are you? You want to go on TV?
Mr. Nim. Hey, let me show you this, by the way, as we
wrap things up
there. Let me remind you of this clip. We're talking about the intelligence agencies. Remember when Chuck Schumer said this to Rachel Maddow on MSNBC?
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What? That sounds like a threat to me.
No, it's 100% a threat.
I remember it. Yeah.
It's 100% a threat.
100%. It's a triple threat.
And he's saying that the United States has been overthrown in a coup, and we're under hostile, like we're under duress right now. We're flying our flag upside down. We're a conquered nation. He's just saying I'm too much of a pussy to do anything about it.
Yeah.
Or I enjoy it. I don't care. I'll get paid off.
Mm-hmm.
Is it on there?
Excuse me, Brian. We're still on the air, honey.
Is this still?
Yes.
Yeah, we're doing good. We're doing good. Yeah.
All right. Here, wait. Let me do that. There we go. Muted Bruce for a moment. Yeah, year after year, week after week. Where are the arrests? Chuck Schumer. Chuck just told us that the country was seized by the intelligence agencies. And that's not a good move. They're the ones that run things. They're the ones in charge. I don't know why that clip doesn't get more attention, honestly. All right, we're back with Bruce. Hi.
Okay, so my mic is unmuted.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The CIA murdered President Kennedy. They know it. We know it. And now the American public knows it. When Steve Bannon saw the complicity of, guys like James Jesus Engel and Malcolm Mac Wallace and George D. Morone, he was furious. He said, man alive, it's the same people that took down Nixon, same people that tried to whack President Trump. It's the same cabal. It's the same group of people. The Watergate figures were all involved in the Kennedy assassination. The movie JFK by Oliver Stone brought that out. The movie Nixon, where we had a Brit play him. He did an outstanding job. It brings that out. The connections. The CIA overthrew President Trump's landslide victory in 2020. They know it. We know it. The young people of America know it.
Countervailing views on health and elections. CISA.gov/rumor control.
There you
They
go.
want you to have countervailing views to their lies.
Exactly. I was with Governor Jesse Ventura on the 40th anniversary on the grassy knoll, and somebody said, "What do you think about the movie JFK?" It was a lot of fiction was woven in. He goes, "It's counter myth. It's counter myth to the Warren Commission, which was the investigative body that was supposed to have investigated the Kennedy assassination. It was a whitewash." Exactly. Our job is to present counter myth to the total myth. The CIA is so corrupted, and it runs China. Now, you wanted me to mention this, and it's tied into the CIA. Not only does Red China now control our CIA, Brian, as you know, they also control the Fed. This financial Fauci, this Dr. Fauci of finance, this old senile geezer that despises Trump, he kept lowering the interest rates for Biden and Kamala Harris to help them win when the inflation was out of sight. But do you think he'll drop it 1/4 of a point now that inflation's down to 2.5%? No. I don't care. If I were Trump, I'd fire him. You should have learned your lesson, President Trump. You should have fired Fauci. Fire this crook. He's put there by the Red Chinese. Everybody knows it. And I just found out this week that 1/3 of his staff are Red Chinese nationals running our Fed. Oh, boy, did Trump surprise him? Did you see how he looked with in his hard hat next to the president? Did you see the video on that, Brian? When Trump made a surprise visit over at the
but I think technically the numbers that he presented were for another project. So Trump,
that was that building thing.
Yeah, so he didn't really have the gotcha he hoped to get him with. But either way, yeah, he looks like a Mr. Magoo. Just
don't insult Mr. Magoo.
Kind of a little bit like Mitch McConnell. A little bit like Mitch McConnell.
He's another Mitch McConnell lookalike. Exactly.
A little bit. No, but I mean, but it's not our Fed. They're a private banking cartel. They're not our Fed. That's not our government. They overthrew our government in 1913 on Jekyll Island. They gave us the Anti-Defamation League because you're not allowed to talk about the Federal Reserve that's going to print our own money and loan it back to us plus interest. Oh, how benevolent of you, conquering invader. Also, there's an income tax now. We're going to shake you by the ankles and take whatever we want. ADL, Federal Reserve, income tax, all 1913, all Jekyll Island.
And don't forget the European bankers and the Swiss bankers and all the moguls in Belgium that were part of that cabal and that conspiracy. And so when you have three great presidents like Kennedy, Reagan, and Trump who want to do away with the Fed and put us back on the gold standard, or if you're Rand Paul's daddy, Dr. No, we're not going to let him speak at the Republican convention because he wants to do away with the Fed. He wants to put us back on the gold standard. And I'll say it again. 90% of these Republicans are just, we're fighting that in Texas right now with these Republicans. Dave Phelan was a communist. The Speaker of the House was a Republican, but he was from Beaumont. The only way Dave Phelan could win was running as a Republican. But he was more liberal than Ted Kennedy. And they're trying to see
the bad one in Texas. Is Cornyn, Texas?
Yeah. John Cornyn is being challenged by, and they're both friends of mine. John Cornyn is the sitting incumbent U.S. Senator, and he's being challenged by our Attorney General, Ken Paxton.
I saw the full court press against Cornyn to get him out today.
Yeah. Oh, and he's fighting back, man. He's running spots all over Texas saying that he has voted with Trump 100% of the time. John has actually helped. Both of them have helped me out on projects. The difference is John is part of the establishment. He's a good man. Where Ken Paxton is MAGA all the way, and he's a strong evangelical born-again Christian. And so I'll probably wind up endorsing Paxton, but I don't know. It's crazy. But the Red Chinese are overtaking Texas. I'll tell you, the Red Chinese are everywhere. If it's not the CIA, it's the Arabs and the Muslims. If it's not those two groups, it's the CIA. What are you going to do?
The Chinese, the Muslims, the CIA.
But I'm telling you, Fauci and Jerome Powell should be put in prison. They should do a perp walk with both of those geezers tonight.
Yeah.
David Bann is right.
Well, and
get busy, Pam Bondi. Get busy.
David Bann getting a shout out from Bruce Engelman. Yes, the world's colliding, Jerry.
I love Canadians.
And I say it all the time, like you're our brothers to the north. I call you Canada. I razz you a little bit, but like we share a border. I want you to be strong. I don't want your country to be invaded like it has been in Vancouver. It's India invading Vancouver.
Yeah. I miss Mulroney. He was the Reagan of Canada. Canada is a great nation. Canada has always been, along with England, one of our greatest allies since the War of 1812. And
I thought Pierre Poilievre was going to take charge of Canada.
I just got done reading a book about Montcalm victory, the victory, the battle of the French and Indian War, the conquest of Quebec. Have you ever read that story? You got to read it. You know, people forget that there was one pre-war before the Revolutionary War with George Washington and the Continental Army, and that was the French and Indian War, where we fought with England. France is our oldest ally, and Russia is probably the second oldest ally.
French and Indian War was when?
French and Indian War was about 1775, right before the Revolutionary War, and it was the battle over Canada. And that's why you have half of them speaking French and half of... Now, they did still possess the Louisiana Purchase, but after the French general lost... And by the way, both generals were murdered on the battlefield. Killed, in battle. They died on the battlefield. England got Canada, and all the French had left was the New Orleans Purchase, which we later got from through Jefferson, but Madison and Jefferson. But anyway, it's the forgotten war. That and the Korean War are the two forgotten wars. The French and Indian War, then the Revolutionary War, and the War of 1812, when England reinvaded us again and burned down the White House. And the stand was in New Orleans, ironically, with John Lafitte fighting with us and the Indians. It was pretty cool. And then the Mexican War, and there were two phases of that: the war with Mexico, and then the Civil War, the Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, the Korean conflict, the Vietnam War, Grenada, Panama, Desert Storm 1, Desert Storm 2, Persian Gulf 1, Persian Gulf 2, Desert Shield, Desert Storm. So you asked me about what's going to happen. The Lord is setting the stage. All these wars. In Matthew 24, his disciples said to Christ, what are the signs of your second coming? He said, wars and rumors of wars. He listed about 8 things. And I was listening to our friend today, Tucker Carlson. He thinks we're really, really on the edge, the precipice of all precipices of World War III.
I think we're in it. I think we've been in it.
Brother, we've been in it since 9/11.
And that's when all of our spending went stupid. When you see the hyperbolic, stratospheric spending increases, it all happened after 2001. Like everything changed. Everything changed, not for the better. Yeah. The majority of that $37 trillion that we elect, and it's so stupid. Like, oh, we owe 37. Who's we? Well, yeah. America. What do you mean America owes 37? Hold on. Imagine going to a favorite restaurant. Imagine you got a local, you probably have a Mexican joint you like, right?
Quite a few.
Yeah. Go and sit down at your favorite and have your tasty meal, unlimited chips and hot salsa, mild salsa, maybe some queso, maybe some guac. I don't know. Maybe make it crazy and they'll put pomegranates. You ever have guacamole with pomegranates in it? No, I have not had that. And I've eaten at hundreds of Mexican restaurants and Tex-Mex restaurants here in Texas. Yeah, that's a wild one, but it's out there. But imagine the bill comes at the end and they hand you a bill for $37 trillion. And you're like, excuse me, garçon. Garçon means boy. And then you call them over and you say, hey, this is inaccurate. And you go, no. Well, the people who sat here, this is the running tally for all the people that sat here before you. You have to pay that. It's like, no, I don't. We owe 37 trillion to who? For what? Huh? What? I don't know. The whole concept of being 37 trillion in debt. But when you look at it, 80, 90% of it is all after 2001. It's mostly after 2001.
It is
4 years of drunken sailor spending.
The day those planes hit, I said, welcome to World War III. We're here. And it's just been dragged out and elongated. And we're borrowing money from China to give to the war machine of Zelensky. Does that make any sense?
No, I don't know why we're so involved in this. I don't understand the fascination. They're just trying to steal Russia's stuff. That's all that's what the deep state's up to. They're just trying to break Russia, and by any means necessary. Wesley Clark said he went to a meeting after 9/11. Actually, I'll just play the clip, but yeah, I mean, it's playing this stuff out in a game of chess. This isn't checkers. This is a long strategy. I get that. I'm not naive, but I don't see the benefit to America in any of this. That's where I'm getting lost. I don't see our benefit, if there even is one. Is there one? The nonstop warfare running us bankrupt?
The Democrats say so. They say if we don't stop them at the Ukraine border, we're never going to stop them. And it's a proxy war. Well, it is a proxy war. It's all it is. It's a proxy conflict. And today, Doug Burgum, who I think is the greatest Interior cabinet member since Mr. Udall under Kennedy back in the 60s, he said, we're buying our gunpowder materials from Russia. Today. He said that today. We are buying the components for our gunpowder from one enemy. We're buying all of our pharmaceuticals from the other enemy, China. And again, I say that loosely because Russia is not our enemy right now. China is. Let me restate that. Russia is not our enemy right now. China and Iran are, and we don't need to worry about Iran. Trump put them out of commission for a couple of years. So,
and it's been argued, what was he even doing there? What was the purpose of Trump getting involved in that? Why? That was an undeclared military strike that could have led to an undeclared war, and maybe it still will with all the sleeper cells. Who knows? This was the clip from General Wesley Clark, the Supreme Allied Commander, on how the U.S. had a long-term. Well, let's just, in his words, let's.
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld, and one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, No. He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." I said, "We're going to war with Iraq? Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we got a good military and we can take down governments." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, "I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran." I said, "Is it classified?" He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Well, don't show it to me."
You know, like they had their plans in place regardless of what was happening. Or, you know, I heard General Mike Flynn, he was just on with Bannon, and he said, he's hearing the rumors that, and it's just rumors apparently, because Bannon goes, whoa, hold on, what? Who did I just say? It's so many generals floating in my head. General Flynn.
Flynn was on Bannon.
Yeah, Flynn said they were given stand down orders to let that happen in Israel when that attack happened. Now, I've heard people make that claim, but when Bannon said, "What evidence?" He goes, I'm just hearing. And I'm like, yeah, I've been hearing it too, but like, where's the evidence? I don't like that accusation, because
what did he say again? What did he say again on Bannon? I watched Bannon today. I missed that. Go ahead.
Said that IDF was given stand down orders to let the attack happen. Like he goes, I was there. There's no way they let anything get past there. And I'm like, I don't know. That whole argument just to me sounds like that girl deserved to be AR'd. She deserved to get assaulted because she had a skimpy dress on. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I need some evidence. Like, if you want to make that claim, I'm all ears. If you're telling me Netanyahu said stand down, go watch 1,200 of your countrymen get butchered, that is hard to imagine. Well, see, it's part of about a longer strategy for greater Israel. You see, you got to conquer your neighbors and then just take it over, but you need a false flag like 9/11. Remember the dancing Israelis? They were the ones behind 9/11, they'll say. And look, of course they'll do this over in Israel because they want to expand, because they want to run a pipeline, maybe a natural gas or an oil pipeline to this, or they want to expand the strait and have more shipping or something. It's like, okay, I can't even broach the topic, because it's like, if you don't have the evidence, what are we making the claims for?
Yeah, we should.
It's like, a bird couldn't land on the wire without them knowing. Therefore, it was obviously a stand down. And I'm like, I get your logic. I understand how you got there. What evidence do you have? Well, the fact that it happened at all. I'm like, that's like blaming the victim of an attack who got dragged into an alley because she was dressed too seductively. That's how dare they exist? Like, they deserve to be attacked because they didn't stop the attack. That's what I'm getting at. Well, they didn't stop it, so they deserved it, or they did it to themselves because they couldn't stop it. And I'm like, I don't know, but it's all these rumors flying around. My main quote is, in the absence of information, speculation runs rampant. In the absence of information, speculation runs rampant.
Yes.
A lot of accusations now.
Yes. However, when you're at war, you can't release everything. Loose lips sink ships. Having worked with the IDF personally, when I was in Israel the first time, I do not believe that for a second. Now, let me say this, Brian. I'm going to say something I've never said publicly before.
Oh.
My sources that have been soldiers and officers of the IDF forces, that's the Israeli Defense Forces, that's the Army, Navy, Air Force. Many of them do not like Netanyahu. Many of them don't trust Netanyahu. But unless you've been over there and you see that tiny, tiny, tiny little country, which is about the size of New Jersey and Rhode Island combined, that every other Middle Eastern and Arabic nation wants to stomp out, and half of Europe, there is no way, whether you like him or not, whether you trust Benjamin or not, there's no way the prime minister let them come that close to destroying their nation. There is no way. I have a hard time. I'm Mr. Conspiracy, like with JFK, because I got the facts. I have a hard time blaming FDR. That's gaining popularity and steam again. That FDR knew the Japanese were going to attack Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. I have to believe that even though he was a Democrat, he was an old-fashioned Democrat who loved America. There are some things that I just, as evil as our system is, I cannot believe FDR knew that was going to happen. Now, I do know Hoover and Johnson knew that Kennedy was going to be shot in 1963. But getting back to Israel, no, I don't believe Netanyahu would have put his entire nation at risk. But who knows? I'm not God. And I'm a big supporter of Israel. I make no bones about that. And I take a lot of heat for it. But, it says in the Bible that in Genesis chapter 12, verses 2 and 3, they who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who attack or curse Israel will be cursed. And Ted got in an argument with, did you see that argument he got in Tucker the other day? And then he couldn't quote the Bible verse. Senator Cruz couldn't remember what the Bible.
Ted didn't do so well, man. I have never seen Ted lose. I have never seen Ted lose a debate, but Tucker creamed his clock in that debate, did he not?
Right. And yet I agreed more with Ted than I did with Tucker.
Yeah, I think he rocked him.
He rocked him. Ted did not come out looking good on that.
Never been exposed like that before.
No.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see how it plays out. But I think the main frustration for the anti-Zionists, I guess that's one way to say it. I think, and I don't have the full argument down. I don't have it all memorized. I don't repeat it as my talking point because it's I don't know. It's just not. The current state of Israel is just being run by like Rothschilds and non-Jews. Like Khazarians. It's a Khazarian mafia that created a country. And of course, it would piss off all the Arabs. You just carve out a piece. You're like, yep, that's mine. You're like, excuse me, what? And that the real Jews aren't even in Israel. That I've heard that argument made a lot of times. That it's either the Khazarian mafia that are pretending to be Jewish and I promised land, and yeah, my God promised me stuff too. I want your house. I'll take that too. My God promised me that. And there is a big Jewish supremacy problem. Not just the Talmud, it's a whole lot of stuff where they think they're high and mighty. They think they're God's gift to humanity. And that rubs a lot of people the wrong way. So there's a lot of criticism I'm hearing on both sides. And I normally just revert back to the self-defense thing. But when you try to talk to somebody about self-defense, like, oh, you just want to say a year and a half ago there was an attack. This war started in 1947. From the river to the sea, they have to go. I'm like, oh, so now you're going to advocate for New Mexico to be stolen by Mexico now because, that happened in the late 1800s and that needs to happen too. Oh, we need to take Texas back. Yeah, Texas needs to, there's no end to working backward. If all you're doing is looking back, all I know is I woke up in a world that had a country called Israel. Whatever, just it's there. Move along. Nope, got to rip it out by the roots, from the river to the sea, shake them off in an intifada, a global intifada. It's a global caliphate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, we were heavy onto the anti-radical Islam attack stuff in 2001, 2002, got away from it from a bit, being celebrated by the Democrat Party now. And you see Europe has been overthrown. I don't know if Europe survives. I don't know if there's going to be they say, oh, Christians are bad. They started the Crusades. It's like the Crusades were the pushback to the Muslim invasion that was trying to conquer the world. At least that's my understanding of it. Maybe that's rudimentary. Maybe I'm leaving out some key context.
No, you're right. Did you know that George Washington and John Paul Jones started the United States Navy because the Arabs were trying to invade and take over the United States? They were the original Barbary pirates, and that's why the United States Navy was formed. And there's always been a fatwa or a caliphate with Arabs to overtake the two Satans, Israel, and at that time, the new fledgling United States. Bobby Kennedy's dad was shot and killed by a Muslim terrorist, although we're starting to think there might have been more than one gunman on that one. But
Sirhan, yeah, they said maybe a Secret Service guard just turned around and pulled. I've watched all sorts of interpretations and ideas.
Yeah,
it's hard to unpack what's right and wrong.
It's very hard to unpack, and it goes through multi-levels, just like Ghislaine's daddy being possibly a triple spy. Isn't that something? But the bottom line is some of these things we won't know until we get to heaven, and maybe we won't even care. I was going to mention to you, it says in the book of Revelation that God will curse those who claim they're Jews and they're not. It's in the book of Revelation. You can look it up on your computer or in your concordance. Those who call themselves Jew, I always think of Sammy Davis Jr., who converted to Judaism. He was a Baptist, African-American Baptist, and he converted to Judaism. God says, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. And the Jews, it's the only religion that doesn't proselyte. I was on a plane flying to New York City with a Jewish rabbi who was flying to Brooklyn to officiate a wedding out of Dallas. Nicest guy in the world. We talked the whole way. And I said, hey, how do you build your faith? He goes, we as rabbis are not allowed to evangelize or proselyte at all. Nobody's welcome into our faith. I go, well, how do you grow? He goes, by birth. He goes, I wish we could evangelize. And there are some in Israel that do. So, boy, Jehovah said to the father of the Arabs, one of the father of the Arabs, actually his son, he said, you'll be a wild man. You'll be a wild man. That was the offspring to his first son, Ishmael. In fact, I have it right here. He says, and he will be a wild man. Genesis chapter 16, verse 12. That's the Muslims and the Arabs, Palestinians. He will be a wild man, in other words, forever. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him, and he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. You know, that was the illegitimate son of Hagar, who had a little fling with Abraham because they got impatient, wanting a kid, wanted the next king. A friend of mine, his dad was an oil man in Iran before the takeover, when they threw the Shah out in the 70s. And he was having lunch at an outdoor cafe with an oil man from Iran. He was from Texas. And he said, so what's the deal, you know? He said, here's the deal, sir. His name was Dr. Connor. He said, Dr. Connor, here's the deal. We Muslims and Arabs hate each other. I'm just going to be frank with you. He said, Dr. Connor, we hate each other more than we hate you, an American, more than we hate England, more than we hate the West. To which Dr. Connor said to this Iranian native oil man, tycoon, well, then why do you attack us and put us down? Why do you call us the big Satan? He said, we hate each other, but we come together because we hate the Jews, and you're the Jews' best friend. He said, we know the American army could stamp out or stomp out any one of the Middle Eastern countries, any one of our Islamic countries in 2 days. But we unite our mutual, while we hate each other. Remember how Iran and Iraq fought for what?
Oh, he left. Maybe the battery went away. I think what he was getting at is that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Am I asking him offline? Question mark. See if he'll bounce back. Yeah, David, you're right. I mean, the leaders seem pretty evil. A lot. It's a tough world, man. I mean, I guess if everything was rainbows and sunshine, well, I guess rainbows have been turned into something else. That's not quite the point I'm making. Everything was happy sunshine. Then maybe this place would get boring. Is that possible? I don't know. I'd say it's possible. Anything is possible. Let me play you this clip because this is what we wanted to get to. We were aiming to get to this part of speaking about anything being possible. Tulsi Gabbard, this interview.
Sorry to keep you, but there's so much to ask you. UFOs. There's been a lot of...
My husband is in the corner, for the record, pumping his fist right now that you're asking this question.
So, I mean, is there anything... We've had some declassification of some very strange videos that look like they are, you know, unidentified flying objects. Is there anything in the files that you think you could find or you have found?
Nothing that I'm prepared to talk about today.
So watch this.
Nothing that I'm prepared to talk about today. She didn't say she didn't find anything. She said nothing she's prepared to talk about today.
In the files that you think you could find or you have found?
Nothing that I'm prepared to talk about today.
So watch this.
That almost sounds like she's holding something back, right, Nimbus?
Space.
Say what?
Watch this space.
We are I'm just going to say this. Yeah, we're continuing to look for the truth.
What was the question? Because I don't think she heard it both times. Watch this space. I don't know what she was saying.
And share that truth with the American people.
The truth is out there.
Yes, it is.
So do you believe that there could be aliens?
I honestly, like, my personal belief. Yeah, I have my own views and opinions.
Right.
In this role, I got to be careful with what I share.
Very interesting.
I'm laughing. My husband's laughing in the corner because we have these same conversations, and obviously, I don't share any classified information. Outside of my building with those who have clearances. But this is fun that he's here to watch this right now.
I wonder what's going on. I think we lost. I think the battery must have gone down. What is this? What are they? Synchronous says Tulsi Gabbard, director of national intelligence, smiles when asked about UFOs and aliens. I can't tell you now, but we'll reveal the truth to the American people. So, what is this? She served in the PSYOP Command Division. Tulsi Gabbard is a U.S. Army lieutenant colonel and Iraq War veteran. The PSYOP Command Division plays a crucial role in shaping perceptions and influencing behaviors through psychological tactics aimed at both military and civilian populations using a variety of methods, including leaflets, loudspeakers, radio broadcasts, to demoralize forces, encourage surrenders, and foster support among civilians for coalition efforts. The goal is to shape a narrative through information and psychological influence. What do you make of that? What do you make of Tulsi Gabbard talking about UFOs? Is it all going to be part of the grand reveal? Part of the next Project Bluebeam PSYOP? I don't know. But I know that was like the last major talking point. All right, he says he lost power. Sorry. Thanks, Nimbus. Appreciated you knocking that out of my hand. That's interesting that Kick ended up putting that quote up on the screen. Yeah. Trying to parse out what it all means. There's so much we don't know. As Donald Rumsfeld famously said, there are known unknowns and there are unknown unknowns. The things that we don't know. We don't know that we don't know. But there are some things we know that we don't know. I know it sounds like a bit of gobbledygook. I know it sounds a little bit convoluted. But it is what it is. All right. I think I'm going to wrap. We had a good chat. There's still topics we left on the board. UFOs and some more Ukraine stuff, but we did get to a lot of the big ones. So here, let me text back. I'm going to say I'll wrap. There we go. Well, thank you all for watching this special interview. Sorry we didn't get a chance to give the proper farewell to Pastor Bruce Engelman, my father's brother, my uncle. Wrote a book called Eternal Flame, about the Kennedy assassination. He's looking to do a revised version very soon. Hopefully, can get that out. But yeah, it's always good to have a wide-ranging chat with good old Uncle Bruce. We'll bring him back again. Hopefully, we won't wait another year this time. But for now, I'm going to sign out. Thank you to David and Unholy Hoax and American Made and everybody else out there in the TNAM universe who are watching. Yes, everyone have a great rest of your evening, and we'll be back tomorrow with the TNAM Daily Show at noon. Special thanks to Bruce Engelman. Great conversation. All right, signing out on behalf of everybody out there in the TNAM universe. I appreciate you. I love you. And we will talk to you again soon. Take care, everybody. Peace.
Your guide to the truth. TheNewAmericanMedia.com.